Chapter 721 Things were stolen. Most of the blonde man's men went to deal with Gongzi's people. And since Gongzi and others were between them, and the doghead team, everyone dealt with the people around them, as soon as the fight started. It was obvious that the blonde man's team was not well trained. So the team's discipline was even more out of the question. Fortunately, the people on their side were very rich. And each person who participated in the battle transformation was rationed with energy capsules, which also made them fight with fewer worries. In the end, Gongzi was still overwhelmed by the large number of transformed warriors. No matter how strong his combat power was, it was limited, and his vitality was lost too quickly because of the large number of gene capsules. In the end, Gongzi knelt on the ground with his whole body. Now he had turned black, and his whole body was carbonized. On this statue-like corpse, it can still be seen that Gongzi's expression was still lonely and unwilling. He must not have thought that his life would end in this way. After the blonde man saw that Gongzi was completely dead, he had the courage to take out a grenade from someone next to him, pulled a safety, and threw it at Gongzi's body. With an explosion, Gongzi's body was also blown to pieces. Some people around Gongzi did not dodge in time, so the grenade also caused some damage to the people in the blonde man's team. However, the blonde man did not show any reaction to these miserable screams. On the contrary, he was a little unhappy with the screams of the injured people. All the injured people who saw the blonde man's eyes shut up immediately. They clenched their teeth, and blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. Seeing that the people who had just screamed shut up under his gaze, he looked very superior, looking at the broken bodies on the ground. He also gave up the idea of staying here. The blonde man called his men to start searching the giant aircraft. And soon the most valuable giant Gundam combat robot was found. The heavy door in the cabin certainly could not escape the eyes of these scums. But they could not open this door either. Although the door could not be opened, the door could be taken away with it. With strength in numbers, the door and the space behind it were soon dismantled. The huge Gundam robot was later directly hoisted by a large number of armed helicopters. From a distance, a giant robot flew into the sky and slowly disappeared. Boss, we have no chance now. We can't beat Doghead and Barbarian. And now the Gundam robot has been taken away by a force that is hundreds of times stronger than them. So we don't have any thoughts. Lee Zimu was very frustrated. She felt that they had no chance to get the Gundam robot. Gusiosi also looked like she didn't want to say anything. The RV now didn't have the capital to fight against any force. Wu Ai also felt that the RV was now covered with wounds and had no fighting power. He couldn't take everyone to die. Wu Xian also looked at Wu Ai with a smile. Her expression was very playful, which made Wu Ai look angry. Chapter 722 Upgrade and Reconstruction Plan. Everyone was a little unhappy with Wu Xian's expression at this time. If they didn't know that she had no body now, but only a virtual avatar with a holographic image, she might have been beaten immediately. Sister Xian, your expression is too annoying. You can still laugh when your Gundam robot was taken away. You are too careless. Gusiosi said whatever she thought. She would not hold back just because the other party was not a real human. I am not laughing at the Gundam robot that was taken away, but at your helplessness now. I've said before that my Gundam robot is not something that can be easily controlled by the technology of their world. They can forget about it without half a year or a year. Can't you come up with a plan to get it back after such a long time? What's the point of complaining about yourself here? Although everyone is somewhat relieved that the Gundam robot cannot be used in a short period of time, they are still a little nervous when they think about getting it back from such a powerful force. Looking at your bear-like appearance, I know you have no way. Fortunately, you have my help. Otherwise you could only survive in this world like mice. Li Muzi frowned at Wu Xian's words. She felt that this was not what an intelligent robot should say. Xian, if you are still unhappy about the previous things, come to me alone. Your way of speaking will cause problems for the team. We didn't save you to hear these words from you. If you really think we are not worthy of being with you, I will do my best to create conditions for you to leave. Wu Ai's words were a bit heavy. For an intelligent robot, everyone felt that these words were a bit too ruthless. Hey! Don't be angry. I didn't mean to say that. But for some new words, I just used them, and they may not be suitable for this occasion. I will definitely change them. At least don't chase me away now. Okay. Wu Ai felt more and more that something was not right after hearing this. The cold and direct Yuzhu had changed a lot to Wu Xian now. Was it really because she got new information that caused her to be like this now? Since Wu Xian had already said that she did not mean to say that. Everyone could forgive her for some minor flaws. In the final analysis, what she said just now did not make sense. It was just that there were some problems with the words and the occasion. The current situation of the RV and everyone's fighting strength were also obvious to everyone. To be honest, what Wu Xian said was not too much. But it was not easy to accept. So what should we do now? Upgrade the RV? Or monitor the so-called alliance? Wu Ai no longer dwelled on the previous things. He began to ask Wu Xian what to do. The RV upgrade is necessary. But I have 3 plans. I don't know which one you will choose. Hearing that Wu Xian had already made a plan to upgrade the RV, Li Zimu snorted unhappily. Because these things originally belonged to her. Now that Wu Xian of the intelligence system has taken over the business, she is of course a little unhappy. Chapter 723 The Forgotten Building Blocks. Of course, Wu Ai also saw Li Zimu's unhappy expression. But these were just small things. Without the troubles of those things, she should be happy after a while. Wu Ai gestured to Wu Xian to talk about her 3 plans, and the latter did not hesitate to start talking directly. The first plan is to find some metal to repair the RV, and then upgrade the RV's attack system and style. The advantage of such an upgrade is that it is fast, and the effect can be seen immediately. The second plan is to find a material that can replace the existing RV shell metal, or at least a substitute that is not lower than the current metal material strength. Then I will change the combat form of the RV so that it will not fight in this state. The third plan is more difficult. We need to get my Gundam robot first, and then integrate it into the RV. The metal material used by my Gundam robot now seems to be similar to your biological metal material. At least not lower than your biological metal material. Wu Xian's plans were just a rough outline. And Li Zimu immediately started to refute. Sister Xian, I'm not deliberately picking faults. Let's not talk about whether you can get your Gundam robot. But how can we integrate such a large robot? You don't think we can take it away like a toy and let the RV eat it? Do you? What I want to tell you is that you must have real strength before speaking and doing things. We don't seem to have the strength, he said. Although Li Zimu's words were not very sharp, they were also very pointed. Wu Xian had been reminded by Wu Ai before. So now, he would not say anything to Li Zimu. But just as the other party said, he would show evidence of his corresponding strength. In the last mission world, did you get a box from Butterfly? If you haven't forgotten, the things in that box are the evidence you want. Everyone knew about the box. But because they were about to leave that world, the building blocks inside were not taken out for identification. There were 3 building blocks and a piece of information in the box, which contained details about the production of the antimatter engine. Antimatter and the like cannot be produced with their current technology. So Wu Ai didn't have any thoughts after reading it. But the 3 building blocks were not taken seriously. So everyone had forgotten them. After I became the intelligent system of the RV, I also had some power. I carefully studied some things that you all forgot. The properties of the 3 building blocks are devouring transformation and shaping fusion. The abilities of these 3 building blocks can give the RV a very powerful upgrade and transformation ability. After hearing this, Li Zimu was also surprised and speechless. These are things that everyone knows, but they have all forgotten. And if these are really as Wu Xian said, the combat effectiveness of the RV can really be greatly improved. Not only that, I also found an old thing. If I use it to make a weapon, then this weapon will have extraordinary attack power. Chapter 724, Death of Doghead. No one really cared about the weapon Wu Xian mentioned. What everyone cared about was that there was a reliable plan for the transformation and upgrade of the RV. The first of the 3 plans Wu Xian gave before was of course abandoned. But the second and third were a bit difficult. The third one is undoubtedly the best. But the second one is easier to achieve. Faced with such a situation, everyone started to discuss. A large number of people hoped to choose the second plan first, and then proceed to the third plan after they had combat power and grab the Gundam robot. This method is undoubtedly the safest. So everyone prefers the second plan. I want to remind you that I have calculated the materials needed to upgrade the RV, and they are only enough for one major upgrade. If you implement the second plan, you may have to wait a long time to implement the third plan. It was only then that everyone realized that upgrading and transformation requires a large number of building blocks and cores. The previous transformation and upgrades have already reached 100,000 level upgrade materials, and the current upgrade is even more unimaginable. In the previous mission worlds, everyone also looted some inventory in the warehouse, so they were barely able to upgrade and transform this time. This makes the choices more difficult. as materials are limited after all. After an hour of heated debate, everyone finally agreed on the third best solution. Although it is very difficult to implement, the improvement in strength is real. Okay. Since everyone has agreed on the third solution, we don't need to worry about how difficult it is. Now we just need to think about how to complete it. There is still a lot of time anyway. So the worst case scenario is that we will just waste more time. The solution has been decided. And now we just need to think about how to get the Gundam robot in the end. After the RV started, it drove towards the gathering place of Barbarian and Doghead again. In order to make them more confident, it was very necessary to unite any forces. Barbarian and Doghead, whose meat had just been robbed by the Alliance, became the best partners. As long as they could act together, it would be completely possible to sneak into the Alliance's warehouse and get the Gundam robot. At that time, as long as they entered the River of Death mentioned by Barbarian and Doghead, it was expected that even a force as strong as the Alliance would not dare to send people into the river. At that time, as long as they slipped away along the river, it would become a matter of no one knowing. When the RV is finally upgraded and transformed, it should not be a problem to protect itself in this world. The result of the discussion made everyone very satisfied. But on the way back, their small detection robot sent back a bad news. During the escape of Manzi and Doghead, Manzi directly killed Doghead in the car. The decisive and ruthless attack was so fierce that even Cherry beside Doghead did not react. The Doghead military advisor, who had been well prepared, died in the car in such an unclear way, which made everyone in the RV unexpected. Now everyone began to hesitate about cooperating with such a person. Chapter 725, Surrender. Cherry looked at the dagger stuck in the Doghead's lung, and the pupils in her eyes shrank rapidly. Such a fatal knife was really too professional and cruel. She thought that this knife would be inserted into the heart. But why Cherry felt scared? This was also directly related to this knife. There are many places for fatal knife wounds in general. And there are also better places for people to die quickly than the lungs. But once the lungs are stabbed, the air inside begins to overflow quickly, and a large amount of blood will flow into the lungs. In this situation, the person who was stabbed has no chance to speak, because he basically has no chance to shout. The reason why Manzi made such a move is probably because he was afraid that Gutu would say something to make him feel afraid. Now, Gutu has left this world without any last words, and what he wanted to say can only be seen in his eyes that have lost their luster. Cherry also knew what Gutu was about to die immediately, and now it was time for her to think about herself. If he didn't do it well now, she might be the next to die. I will follow you. As long as you don't let me do anything too extreme. I will help you prove it, and help you quickly gain the loyalty of everyone in the gathering place of Doghead. Cherry is not a fool. She can think of some of the reasons why Manzi did this. Doghead's subordinates all knew that they were being hunted by the Alliance just now. So Manzi could directly take over the other party's power, as long as he dealt with a few people who were more trusted by Doghead. Doghead should never have expected that something unexpected would happen. So his death became a matter of course in the accident. Everyone in the RV heard what Cherry said. So of course they knew that the people in the two forces should now be considered as one force. I wonder what Manzi will do when his power grows stronger. A man with some ambition and means, like him, will not be willing to be inferior to others. I don't like those people in the Doghead's power. They are just cannon fodder. The stage I need cannot be satisfied by these people. So only you are the talent I need. Manzi's words also made Cherry a little nervous. If Manzi killed the Doghead for her, then she might not be able to escape from Manzi's palm in this life. Although she can use the gene capsule to kill Manzi, if his men start to hunt her, she will have no chance of survival. If Manzi didn't have any big ideas about her, then she could still be his pawn. But now, don't worry too much. I won't have any ideas about you. In order to make you work for me sincerely, I can promise you anything as long as it doesn't go against my will. There's no need to worry about your personal safety. I just need your energy. As long as you cooperate with me, and then use those people of Doghead as cannon fodder, we can completely take down a base of the Alliance here. I won't give that giant robot to others easily. Cherry couldn't say anything now. The only way for her to survive was to surrender to the man in front of her. Chapter 726, The Plan of Manzi and Cherry. The next thing was relatively simple. Manzi and Cherry disposed of the body of Doghead without anyone noticing. Then they dealt with some of Doghead's loyal confidants during dinner, so that the remaining ordinary minions would consciously listen to Cherry and Manzi. When these shrimp soldiers and crab generals returned to the gathering place of Manzi a few days later, Cherry and Doghead told the people who stayed behind that they were attacked by the Alliance. With the instigation of Manzi and Cherry, these people immediately sent a team back to Doghead's gathering place, and then brought back all the combat supplies and personnel. It seems that these people are ready to go to war with the Alliance. But there are still some things that are hard to understand. Boss, don't these people know how terrible the Alliance is? Why do they dare to compete with the Alliance with such a small number of people? Li Zima was eating apples picked from Gusiosi's exclusive space at this time, looking very enjoyable. Aren't you very thoughtful? You should have received information about such a simple thing from the detector a long time ago. Looking at Li Zimu, who has been a little lazy recently, Wu Ai feels that this guy is now focusing more on eating and drinking. Recently, many fruits in Siosi have matured, so I don't have time to look at them. Now I have nothing to do. I eat fruits and watch old TV series every day, and my life is like a fairy. Wu Ai heard a sour taste in her tone. But these are just her little temper. The future of the end of the world will not let anyone have a rest. Okay. Since you are too lazy to watch it now, then I will tell you about it. I don't know the specific mechanism, but all this should be the genetic transformation effect of the thin and dry bald man next to the barbarian. Because every time Cherry and the barbarian incited the people in the dog-headed forces, the bald man would eat the gene capsule. With the genetic transformation ability of Cherry, the bald man's special ability is not a rare thing. Li Zima nodded in agreement while constantly putting the apple into her mouth. She looked like she didn't care too much. Boss, why haven't I seen Brother Viper these days? He seems to be very busy recently. Li Zima suddenly talked about another topic, following the other party's words. Wu Ai also thought about it, and felt that Viper really seemed to be busy recently. Just as he and Li Zima were chatting, Wu Xian suddenly appeared on the holographic image. And then, she directly spoke to the two people who were still at the conference table. Manzi and Yingdao are about to take action, so we'd better be prepared. It seems that these two people also know that if time passes, the Gundam robot may be moved, so they also want to go and grab it back as soon as possible. Their anxiety can be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. If we can make good use of this opportunity, maybe we can upgrade the RV thoroughly in the near future. Hearing Wu Xian's passionate statement, Wu Ai also had some expectations in his heart. Although the RV's transformation into Gundam has greatly improved his combat effectiveness, his combat effectiveness is becoming less and less in the increasingly difficult trial tasks. Chapter 727 Civilized City. While there was still time, Wu Ai gathered everyone together and talked about the recent arrangements. And then he asked everyone to rest. After all, it would take time for Cherry and Manzi to get to the gathering place of the Alliance, so they still had a lot of time to adjust their status. Now that Wu Xian was there, driving was no longer a problem. The RV with the intelligence system could be unmanned, and it was the kind that could handle complex situations. Manzi and Cherry asked those people in the dog-headed forces to set off in advance. In addition to bringing enough food and weapons, the rest of the supplies were transported by Manzi's people. The fate of these cannon fodders has long been determined, but they are completely unaware of it. Although Wu Ai and others who understand all this can change it, they will not do so. Everything in the world has a reason. If they are stopped, Wu Ai's team will be in trouble. Wu Ai certainly does not want to see such a situation. Just like in a peaceful era, some people clearly know and have the ability to stop some things, but they are more paralyzed than Wu Ai at this time. Of course, everyone knows the specific reasons. At this time, the people in the Doghead gathering place are marching fast, and their convoy has not stopped since the start. The drivers took turns to rest, and even refueled with a tanker behind them, so as not to waste any parking time. In this way, these people finally arrived at a city that looked brightly lit on the third night. This city basically still retains the appearance of a civilized city, except for the tall city walls outside. The inside is completely what a normal city should look like. Fuck. Boss. What's going on in this world? It seems that there is nothing wrong with this city. This city doesn't look like it lacks energy at all. And it seems that some basic technologies are very normal. It's like two different worlds here and outside. Li Zimu is still eating a banana in her hand. Although her mouth is stuffed with food, it does not hinder her from talking. This is also the first time Wu Ai has seen such a city. Before, they only saw abandoned cities. Is this the way the world should be? The people of Guda travel day and night. It is estimated that they have traveled for at least 7 or 8 days. After such a long journey, they can see the shadow of civilization. which also makes the team feel hopeful. Although the area of this city may not be large, it is not an exaggeration to say that this completely normal city is a paradise. No wonder Manzi wanted to occupy this place. He must have been thinking about this place for a long time. Manzi and Cherry were also in the team at this time. When they saw the brightly lit city, they were also a little excited. Especially Manzi. He was so excited that he was trembling all over. Because this city will belong to him in the future. How can he not be excited? He asked Cherry to find out the situation inside. If there is anyone who is most capable of doing such a thing, it must be her. Manzi asked someone to drive a car to take Cherry to the other side of the city. The rest of the things will wait for her to continue the research after she comes back. Chapter 728 Opportunity. After sending Cherry away, Manzi ordered everyone to eat and rest. He needed this team to be able to go up and participate in the battle at any time. At this time, they were hiding in an abandoned village not far from the city. Although such a place was simple, it was still enough for these people to rest. At this time, Manzi no longer looked like the boss of a gathering place. He was very excited and walked back and forth in a broken house. When he thought that this city he had been thinking about day and night was within his reach, he felt inexplicably excited and could not control himself. Because his own team was carrying a lot of supplies. They walked slowly. So they probably couldn't get here today. According to the speed, the fastest time to arrive is tomorrow night. But the combat troops may be faster, and may arrive at their current position in the early morning of today. 3 hours later, Manzi's men found Inka's signal and drove to pick her up immediately. The vehicle was parked in a hidden place near the city's security range. If it drove forward, it would definitely be discovered by the people on the city wall. So the person responsible for driving to pick up Ingtao could only wait here. After half an hour, the car finally welcomed Ingtao. After she got on the car, she immediately let the car quickly return to their temporary camp. I'm back. Hurry up and drink some water and take a rest. When Manzi saw Cherry enter the dilapidated house, he said to Cherry in a somewhat attentive manner. After entering, Cherry drank up the tea that Manzi handed over without hesitation. Obviously, judging from the temperature of this cup of tea, Manzi had calculated the time to make it for her. Looking at the other party's excited expression, Cherry didn't dare to really rest before talking about the situation. In such a short time, I can't contact 2 high-level people, so the information I can get out is also very limited. The giant robot has not been transported away now, but placed in the square of their military stronghold. There is no corresponding warehouse for such a huge thing, so it can only be placed outside. The reason why they are staying here now is to wait for the planes to refuel. These planes transporting this robot also consume a lot of fuel. There is not so much aircraft-specific fuel stored in the city of this alliance. So these planes are waiting to be refueled before they can continue to transport this robot. They want to transport this robot to the headquarters of the alliance. So the fuel guarantee along the way is also a big problem. After saying so much, Cherry was a little thirsty again. She poured herself another cup of tea and continued after drinking it. The yellow-haired young man we saw before is the son of the leader of the alliance. He basically has no talent and can do nothing except eating, drinking and having fun. But according to some rumors I heard, the reason why he came this time was because of the influence of his mother. Maybe the old leader is not in good health, so his sons are a little eager to move. Although his son has no idea about the position of leader, as long as he can eat and drink for a lifetime. It seems that his mother is not satisfied with this, so she strongly recommended her son to come to complete this task. So, we may have caught up with a great time. Chapter 729 Oil Tank Convoy. After listening to these reports, Manzi put away his somewhat uncontrollable restlessness and began to analyze the value contained in this information. Whether to cooperate with the other party or kill the other party directly. He still needs to think carefully. If he cooperates, the benefits he gets may be much less, but the relative danger will also be much less. However, if he kills the people of the alliance in this city, then everything in this city will be his. Although the danger will increase, the benefits are of course needless to say. Manzi is quickly calculating his current assets. He needs a plan to maximize his own interests. As for the danger, is there any safety in this world? After about 15 minutes, Manzi finally figured everything out. It is safest to control this city in his own hands. He does not need a person to give orders above him, and he must control everything by himself. Now I will let my men monitor the main roads leading into the city ahead. The oil tanker convoy should not be able to enter through the small roads. If we find the whereabouts of the other party in advance, then we only need to intercept these oil transport vehicles, and then use the convoy as a cover to blend into the city. And the rest of the things will be very simple. After entering, you take some people to control the top leaders directly, and let me deal with those who dare to resist. The expression of the barbarian at this time was very ferocious, as if anyone who wanted to stop him would face a battle with the devil. Since Cherry had chosen to make a deal with the devil at this time, she no longer had any thoughts of human kindness. Wu Ai also knew all this at the first time through a small detector. He knew that the city in the future must belong to the barbarian, and in this case, the people in their RV could not stop it. But the Gundam robot in this city must enter his pocket, and even the barbarian who is now in the limelight cannot stop this. The barbarian then quickly gave his orders. He asked several teams to drive the fastest cars to monitor the roads into the city, and they must be far away and beyond the observation range of the city. He didn't want to leave the teams in the city out because of the sound of the battle. In this way, the barbarian side was quiet. It is estimated that there should be nothing to do today. Only when the fuel transport convoy is discovered. That will be the signal for the start of the battle. Everyone in the RV rested well, and everyone was ready to fight at any time. And the people in the barbarian gathering place finally arrived on the second night. These people seemed to have been sleeping in the open air all the way. When they arrived at the village, it was obvious that it was a bit crowded. When Manzi was thinking whether he needed to find a place for these people to stay temporarily, a person who came to report also made him give up this idea. It turned out that one of the teams found a convoy transporting fuel. The length of the convoy seemed to be at least 50 tankers. Based on the number of these tankers, Manzi also had a rough estimate of the armed helicopters in the city. Let's take those people with dog head and set off now. It's time for these people to play their last remaining heat. Manzi sneered and said to Cherry in front of him. Chapter 730 Encounter. Cherry felt the coldness on her body when she saw Manzi's smile. These people who were very familiar to her in the past might leave this world today. Although she had no choice but to associate with a devil like Manzi, she was still tormented in the face of familiar faces. I can't have feelings. I can't have sympathy. Now you are already a member of the devil. In order to survive, these useless emotions should be abandoned. Although you can't meet the devil's requirements now, you will definitely be able to in the future. There was a voice in Cherry's heart that kept telling her all these things. Like her self-hypnosis, or like the devil's call. Looking at everything in front of her, Cherry finally made up her mind. This action let her abandon all the feelings that shouldn't exist. The barbarians had already given all the orders, and the people in the Doghead gathering place were also quickly preparing to get on the car to fight. The people in the barbarian gathering place, who came from afar, had just arrived here, so they should take a rest in this situation. For these people who had been resting for a long time, they didn't think there was anything wrong. Some of the people who stayed in the Doghead gathering place before had become familiar with the barbarians' men. They also smiled and asked the barbarians' men to help them look after the shabby shacks that can still be used as homes. Imdao looked at this scene and felt mixed emotions again. He knew that these people might never return home. This situation is still very common when people are preparing to fight. Some entrust their children, and some entrust their wives. But no matter what they entrust, they will not know how tragic this action will be. There are about 4,300 people who can fight in the Doghead gathering place. From these numbers, it can be seen that the Doghead's leadership ability is still good. After all these people got on the car, they drove quickly to the road with the oil tanker under the leadership of Manzi. Since they had discovered the enemy in advance, these people were not afraid of being discovered by the enemy when they drove in the opposite direction along this road. Manzi's main purpose was to consume these people and then seize the oil tanker convoy. After driving for more than an hour, Manzi calculated the speed of the enemy's convoy through the people who came to report. It was estimated that the enemy would appear in their sight in about 10 minutes. So he ordered all the vehicles to be moved across the road to prevent the enemy from driving directly into them and escaping. After all the vehicles they brought on the road were parked sideways, Manzi looked at the situation with satisfaction and said nothing. In the distance, a long line of lights of tanker trucks could be seen. It looked very domineering. No wonder the strength of the alliance was so strong. One convoy could give us a glimpse of the whole situation. Of course, the convoy on the opposite side also found obstacles and people on the road. Although they were the convoy of the alliance, it did not mean that they would not encounter danger. There were also many people and forces who did not buy into their alliance. So any convoy of the alliance would be protected by a team responsible for fighting. As the entire convoy slowly slowed down and pulled over to give way. Some vehicles responsible for fighting in the convoy accelerated to the front on the other side of the convoy. Chapter 731 One-Sided Massacre. Faced with this blatant robbery, the Alliance also has a very complete preparation plan. Generally, they will first introduce themselves, and then see if the other party is afraid of the name of the Alliance. If the other party does not buy it, they can also give some benefits appropriately. In this way, most forces will stop when they see the good. After all, they have also gained some benefits. And the Alliance is not a force that is easy to mess with. Being able to solve the problem without conflict is the best result. However, there are some people who are not very smart, and they just want to rob the Alliance's convoy. Although such people are not very smart, the materials transported by the Alliance's convoy are not ordinary things. As long as they can successfully rob once, the value of these things can make a small settlement worry-free for a lifetime. Just like the fuel for the special aircraft transported by the Alliance's convoy now. It is a good thing that can be sold at a sky-high price on the black market. After all, no matter how good the aircraft is, it can only be used as a decoration without fuel, and the pilot is useless. When such a situation that the Alliance must go to war occurs, the guards usually quickly reduce the number of the opponent first, and then send out the transformed warriors to clear it out. But the situation they encountered today was very special, and the barbarians would not give them such an opportunity. I don't know who shouted to start, and all the personnel responsible for the first batch of battles quickly took the gene capsules. The vehicle sent by the Alliance to introduce itself just stopped, and they had no time to get off the car before they were greeted by the transformed warriors like ants. Such an emergency prevented the personnel responsible for the escort from reacting in time. So one of their strongest means lost its due effect. When these people started taking the gene capsules, they had completely lost the advantage of the first move. But despite this, these guards are not vegetarians. Among their transformed warriors, there are quite a few natural gene transformers. Wu Ai and his team also saw all this through surveillance from a distance. And the strong strength of the Alliance was also verified at this moment. After a guard of the Alliance successfully took the gene capsule, his body quickly began to grow something like bark. During this period, he ran to the side of the road, and his legs quickly turned into two things, like tree roots, and deeply inserted into the ground. As the roots were inserted to complete the transformation process, the arms of this tree man began to quickly grow green vines like whips. These vines quickly searched for the enemy, then crawled along their bodies to the necks of these transformed warriors, and began to circle and tighten. Some of the stronger animal-type transformed warriors might be able to temporarily escape the fate of being strangled, but some of the weaker ones had their necks strangled directly. There were also guards who could use the wind to form barriers and attack methods, and guards who could discharge electricity, etc. These natural-type transformers were quickly clearing the animal-type transformers on the barbarian side. Looking at the transformers on his side being killed in large numbers, like cutting wheat, the barbarian not only did not have any regrets, but instead had a bloodthirsty and excited expression. Chapter 732 The battle is over. Although the Alliance guards have very strong guards, and they have killed many people, the transformation time of the gene capsule is an irresistible rule. Anyone who has used a gene capsule once will not be able to use it again in a short period of time. Of course, these rules are for humans who want to survive. If you don't want to live, you can continue to use it, but the effect will continue to decrease. Killing people also takes time, and the time for these natural transformation warriors, who were put into use earlier, is about to expire. Once the time is up, the advantages of the guards will immediately disappear, although the transformed warriors on the guard side will not be put into use at once. One of their trump cards has not been used, which has also increased their burden a lot. In order not to be surrounded by the enemy, the guards began to retreat. Once the transformation time is up, if they are still surrounded by the enemy, they will die miserably. The same situation is true for the people on the barbarian side. The transformed warriors on both sides have a rare tacit understanding, and all retreat to the back. At this time, the second batch of transformed warriors of the barbarian have also completed the transformation. They quickly passed the previous personnel and came directly to the battlefield. There are less than 200 warriors on the side of the barbarians this time, but these people have relatively strong transformation abilities. Among them, there are also several natural transformers, so it is not an exaggeration to say that this team is the strongest. On the other hand, the Alliance guards are a bit miserable. This time, All the non-transformed personnel are only 10 people, which is very dangerous for them. But if they don't fight, the Alliance will not let them go. Their families are still in the city of the Alliance, and the consequences are not difficult to imagine. If they die in battle, it will be another matter. The Alliance will have some preferential treatment for their families, and this preferential treatment will continue until all their families die, in order not to drag down their families. Even if there were only 10 people left, they joined the battle without hesitation, since the barbarians also had a natural shapeshifter, plus some powerful other animal shapeshifters to cover them. The Alliance side was killed by a shapeshifter guard who could control ice as soon as they came into contact. Although the subsequent battle was fierce, the balance of victory had begun to tilt towards the barbarians. In the end, before the transformation effect ended, all 10 shapeshifter guards on the Alliance side were killed. This result was actually destined before the war started. The remaining Alliance transformers, who had not recovered, were killed by the barbarians' confidants with guns, without the ability to transform. Bullets, which are very cheap, can easily end the life of a natural transformer. The barbarians' previous 4,000 people now have less than 600 people, and a lot of white mist is rising from their bodies. Everyone in this world understands this situation. They are in great need of energy replenishment, because they are marching quickly. They did not bring canned food and food. Originally, these people thought that the supplies would follow them, but they didn't know that the barbarians' fundamental purpose was to consume their lives. Chapter 733 Wish Come True. Those struggling in the white mist also began to die quickly. They were not killed by the enemy in the battle, and such a miserable death after the battle was the last thing that these people seemed to understand. Looking at some people struggling painfully on the ground, Manzi's confidant stepped forward and shot them one by one. For Manzi, there was a 1 in 10,000 chance of betrayal, and he would not let such a thing happen. More than 4,000 people were killed in this short period of less than 15 minutes. The corpses all over the ground made Cherry, who wanted to join the ranks of the devil, regret for the first time. Looking at Cherry with an uncertain expression on her face, Manzi said excitedly, "You can keep your conscience and feelings. I hope you can keep your IQ as well, because sometimes the consequences of being emotional require a price to pay. Only when your IQ is calm. You are worthy of these luxury things." Manzi has seen the changes in Cherry's heart, and he doesn't mind that Cherry has some small thoughts. But these are all based on the premise that she has no idea of betrayal. If the other party has this idea and he finds out, then waiting for her death is an extremely luxurious thing. Cherry was horrified to find that her inner changes seemed to be discovered. This strong feeling of insecurity and being monitored made her very frightened. Barbarian did not wait for Cherry's answer. He walked towards the tankers on his own. He needed to appreciate his spoils. The 3 confidants with Barbarian did not leave with him. These people seemed to be monitoring Cherry, and they seemed to be afraid to move without Barbarian's order. Cherry saw this situation and made up her mind that the first goal of her future life was to survive. Not long after, some people from the Barbarian gathering place drove over. They acted as the tanker drivers and the escort of this convoy, in order to deceive the inspection in the Alliance city base. Some necessary things still needed to be done simply. After the Barbarians' men dealt with the blood splashed on the car and some problems that could be seen at a glance, they transformed into the Alliance's tanker transport convoy. As for the customs clearance codes and inspection procedures, these were all left to Yingtao to handle personally. The convoy continued its journey in a mighty manner, heading towards the Alliance base city ahead. This was the first time that Wu Ai and others saw a large-scale battle scene of natural transformation warriors, and they were also a little excited when they saw him. Those magical abilities reminded him of the superheroes in peacetime movies. In theory, those who took gene capsules can also be considered superheroes. But in this world where gene capsules are everywhere, superheroes have become as common as farmed pigs. Now Wu Ai just saw some low-level transformers and felt that they were unmatched. If there were more powerful transformers, would they be able to reach the level of godlike existence? The RB was quiet. After watching this battle, everyone had a more accurate understanding of their power. Boss, we can't grow others' ambitions. Although their strength can be said to be very strong, this cannot change their fatal weakness, which is time. Chapter 734 Disruption. Li Zima's words were certainly to the point. They all knew about this fatal weakness, and the other party would not fail to be on guard. Now they only came into contact with some low-level guys. The real high-level would definitely not let such an obvious weakness be targeted by the enemy. The barbarians' convoy moved towards the Alliance's base city, and the RV controlled by Wu Xian also followed closely at the maximum distance to avoid being discovered. If the holographic camouflage system of their current RV was not damaged, they could directly sneak in openly. Barbarians controlled the speed of the convoy and tried to make the convoy arrive at the city checkpoint around 3 a.m. This time period is usually when people are sleepy, and maybe they will get some unexpected gains in this situation. The arrival of such a large convoy must not be undetected. Under the illumination of the searchlight on the city wall, the convoy had to stop. A small car from the checkpoint drove over slowly, and the people in the car got off and ran directly to the first escort command car. These people were directly controlled by the cherries that had been prepared long ago. These people simply used secret signals to let the people on the city wall pass. After receiving the signal, the searchlight once again scanned the area around the city according to the previous trajectory. The inspectors returned to the car, and the convoy with the barbarians began to drive to the location of the checkpoint. After the convoy arrived at the checkpoint, Cherry began to abandon some of the soldiers who had no power. There was a major change in the checkpoint. Except for a station master, all the people were killed. With the help of the station master, the convoy finally entered the city through the open gate. They had already made a clear plan for entering the city, so there was no need to explain the division of labor in detail again. The guards at the city gate were also killed directly, and some armed personnel quickly moved to the various sentries. Barbarian needed to replace all the sentries on the city walls with his own people, because he still needed his troops to enter the city without danger later. Intao led some people to look for the high-ranking dignitaries in the city, while Manzi waited for his troops to arrive at the city gate. After a while, all the guard posts on the city wall were replaced. At this time, the lights of the cars in the distance began to become brighter. Finally, today is the day when my goal can be achieved. I want to let everyone in this world know that I, Manzi, am also a person who can dominate one side. Manzi led people to the military camp of the city troops. He hoped to get rid of these people silently while they were sleeping. But Wu Ai and others could not tolerate taking the city quietly. If there was no chaos, it would be difficult for them to enter the city. The electromagnetic cannon on the RV fired directly at the gate occupied by the barbarians outside the city, and the people left behind there immediately cried for their parents. Such a violent explosion also woke up the sleeping city, and the shrill alarm kept ringing, and the barbarians were very annoyed. They had planned it perfectly, and even such a situation was within the plan. But they could have occupied the city quietly. But now there was an extra problem, and he was really unhappy. Chapter 735: The Mysterious Disappearance of the Robot. Although the personnel in charge of the battle in the city were awakened, their reaction was not as fast as expected. Moreover, the barbarians had basically killed their men to where they slept, giving them even less time to react. Some elite personnel reacted quickly, and they became the last counterattack force in the city. There was also a fight at the VIP reception where the yellow-haired young man was. Although the yellow-haired young man was a useless guy who only knew how to eat and drink, he did have some capable people around him. Wu Ai saw that the city was already in chaos, so he directly asked Wu Xian to control the RV to the location of the Gundam robot in the city. This was their goal this time. As for what would happen to the city in the end, the grudges between the barbarian and the Alliance were none of his business. Some wealthy people also found something wrong at this time. Someone dared to come to the city of the Alliance and seemed to have the upper hand. They knew what this meant. They took some necessary things, took their families, and took their own vehicles to escape from the city. All the city gates were closed because the barbarian knew that these people were fat sheep and he would never let them go. But the city gate in one direction was damaged unexpectedly, so this became a place where all the escapees had to go. The RV was not very congested when it entered the city gate, but they knew that they would not be able to leave here when they came back again. The destination of the RV was very clear, which was the tall robot in the military restricted area. Cherry did not succeed in controlling the high-level officials, and the reason was very simple. The awakened guards had protected the place like an iron barrel, so Cherry had no conditions to use her ability. After receiving this news, Manzi kept cursing, and he swore that if he found the culprit, he would let him go to his factory to enjoy himself. The ordinary combatants had been dealt with by Manzi, and the elites also found that the building where the high-level officials were located was relatively safe, so they also retreated to that location. Without the lifting of the armed helicopter, such a large robot could not be transported. So Manzi was very relieved here, and he took everyone to support Intao. Wu Ai found this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and of course would not let it go. After watching Manzi lead people away, he immediately asked Wu Xian to come to the foot of the Gundam robot. Xianer, we have arrived at the place, and the rest depends on you. And I want to remind you that we don't have much time. If Manzi reacts, we can't leave. Wu Ai's reminder was obviously a bit redundant. Wu Xian parked the RV and started her work. A small window opened on the roof of the RV, and something like a laser transmitter stretched out from it. The thing that stretched out emitted a red light, and the light began to scan the huge robot in front of it like a 3D printer. But wherever the laser scanned, it disappeared directly. Looking at the robot in front of them, that looked like it was erased by an eraser. Everyone in the RV also made a sound of amazement. This scene was so weird that even the barbarians who were fighting with the last armed forces in the city in the distance noticed it. Chapter 736 One Man's Pursuit. When Manzi's subordinates reminded him to look back at the location of the Gundam robot, the head of the Gundam robot had disappeared. Manzi also felt incredible about this strange change. In his understanding, such a situation is impossible. But looking at the robot that continued to disappear, he had to face the strange events in front of him. No matter what the cause was, there must be other forces, or individuals, who also wanted to take advantage of the robot. Thinking of the attack on the gate just now, everything immediately made sense. But the time chosen by the other party was really too tricky. Now he didn't dare to evacuate to stop the other party from taking the robot away in a weird way. No one in the building in front of him used the gene capsule, which meant that they still had spare power. If the other party used the gene capsule, it would be considered as starting to fight desperately. In order not to make the people inside desperate, they also wanted to deal with the things here as soon as possible and then go to the robot. Manzi had to give up the idea of annihilating these people and left them a gap to escape. After these people found this gap, they immediately found a car to escape. They were very smart not to choose to use armed helicopters, because although they could run faster in the sky, the danger would increase accordingly. Manzi's final plan also failed, and the other party did not find a helicopter to escape. He had to let some people drive to chase after him, and he took Cherry to see what happened to the robot. When he and his men arrived at the storage location of the robot, they just witnessed the last part of the Gundam robot disappearing. The laser transmitter on the RV stopped emitting lasers, and then quickly retracted into the RV. Manzi recognized the RV the moment he saw it. This was the floating RV that ran into the river of death before. Originally, he wanted to communicate with Wu Ai. But why would Wu Ai waste time with him here? What he needed now was to leave here immediately for upgrading and transformation. After the RV started, it accelerated immediately and fled quickly towards the location of a city wall. The barbarian drove behind it and chased after it. He found that this RV was more valuable than the robot, and it should also belong to him. When the RV came not far from the city wall, it activated the jump function without hesitation. In an instant, the RV flew over the city wall in a graceful arc under the moonlight. The barbarian felt more and more that he could not let the other party go, no matter whether he was controlled by humans or not. He had to get this car. He opened the nearest city gate and drove out directly. Before leaving, he left everyone behind. And this time, he went to chase alone. Imdao was left behind to control the city, and he had to find a way to get the RV. Without other drags, the weight of the vehicle was also reduced a lot. On the highway at night, the barbarian was like a lone wolf, and he didn't want to give up the delicious prey in front of him. Wu Xian also gave the image of the barbarian chasing the RV in the holographic image, and everyone had two different opinions on this matter. Wu Ai wanted to enter the Blackwater River and run away, while Li Zimu wanted to stop the car and take this good opportunity to kill the barbarian. Both methods have their own advantages, but Wu Ai felt that the other party dared to come alone to chase, and he would not do so if he was not sure. Chapter 737 Unexpected. Speaking of this, everyone suddenly realized that no one had ever seen Manzi use the gene capsule. Everyone was very curious about his ability. Now that he was alone, it was the best time to get to know him. In the end, Wu Ai still couldn't stand Li Zimu's soft and hard persuasion. The most important thing was that he was also a little curious about Manzi's ability. So after driving for 2 hours at a safe distance, he thought he could get in touch with Manzi and see what kind of ability he had. The RV suddenly stopped while driving, and Manzi's car was too fast, so it was impossible for him to stop in a short time. But the other party was also a bachelor. Although he stepped on the brakes, he still crashed into the RV. The RV was now controlled by Wu Xian. How could the other party's tricks let him do what he wanted? The RV gracefully made the body of the car pass through an arc and easily avoided the collision of the other party's vehicle. After the barbarian's car stopped, he jumped out directly from it. He stood in front of the car, with his hands on his chest, waiting for something. Wu Ai and others also opened the car door and then walked out. They all wore enhanced protective clothing, and with a cover of combat helmets. They were not afraid that the other party would remember their appearance. The Lee sisters did not use their real means. They were just wearing the same enhanced protective clothing. Some means still need to be kept secret. They don't know what kind of ability the barbarian has. Everyone, shouldn't you tell me in advance if you took my things? It's not very kind to just rob them and leave. The barbarian did not start a fight directly, and he didn't seem to be very hostile. You obviously wanted to rob our things, but now you are brazenly saying that they are your things. Who is being dishonest? Wu Ai did not start a fight directly. He also wanted to take the opportunity to learn some other information. Oh, so you are also outsiders? The reward offered by Changsheng Company for you seems to be very generous. If you hand over the robot to me, I will pretend that I have never seen you. Wu Ai got two pieces of information from this sentence. The first is that the world has already obtained some information about the trial team like them. And the second is that the so-called Changsheng Company has offered a reward for them. Wu Ai has no idea what the company wants to do by arresting them, but it should be related to the experiment. Thinking of this, Wu Ai also chuckled and said, "It seems that you are very confident in your ability. I want to see how long you can last." This way of speaking made the female team members look at him. And Wu Ai also felt that his words seemed to make people think about it. Originally, Wu Ai didn't think that the other party would dare to use the gene capsule alone, because of the time. Even if he was not in any danger when he transformed, the weakness after the time was up was also a fatal weakness. But what was unexpected was that the other party actually used the gene capsule without any hesitation. This situation made everyone a little confused. Fei Bao quickly returned to the RV and put on the exoskeleton frame. She wanted to try how strong the boss of this gathering place was. Chapter 738 Probing Attack. Wu Ai looked at the calm expression on Manzi's face, and he seemed to think that there was a problem. The gene capsule had a fatal weakness that was too obvious, and he didn't believe that Manzi would not know it, unless he had a way to circumvent the weakness. At this time, Manzi had also begun to change, and his body began to change from the image of a muscular man to a more slender figure. Moreover, a long yellow and black tail grew behind him, and his muscles began to grow body hair of the same color as the tail. At first glance, he looked like a leopard that had become a spirit. A few seconds later, what appeared in front of Wu Ai and others was a leopard man transformed by the barbarian. The graceful figure and slightly raised muscles on his surface proved that the opponent's strength should not be underestimated. Since the opponent has become like this, the speed should be very fast. Perhaps the reason why the opponent is not afraid of the weakness of the gene capsule is that he can fight quickly. The barbarian raised his hand to look at his furry arms, and then shook the tail behind him. And he said with some nostalgia, "It's really been a long time since I saw my transformed appearance. Although the current transformation effect is not very good, it should be enough to deal with you." After saying that, he rushed towards Wu Ai. The next second, Wu Ai felt the beard on his face after the barbarian turned into a leopard man. He didn't even have time to show a horrified expression at such a terrifying speed. Fortunately, someone kicked him away at the critical moment, so that he could avoid being bitten. Although Fei Bao was wearing an exoskeleton frame, she didn't react. When Wu Ai was kicked away, she realized what had just happened. The barbarian's bite was not successful, but he looked up and saw the man who kicked Wu Ai away. Li Muzi put down her raised right leg and looked at Manzi, who was interested in her, with some seriousness. "Oh, not bad. I didn't expect this girl to be so strong. If you agree to join my gathering place, you can sit in the second seat besides me." Manzi started poaching in a very relaxed and humorous tone, and his expression did not show any concern about his transformation time. Wu Ai also stood up at this time, and he was the only one who had the most say about the opponent's terrifying speed just now. Theoretically, he had already started to review his life in the moment just now, and he had never thought that there was still hope of survival. This indirectly proved the opponent's speed and pressure, making Wu Ai, who was wearing protective clothing, feel that he was doomed. After getting up, Wu Ai put his hands behind his back and gestured for everyone to enter the RV. And Manzi did not stop him in the face of such a situation. He always looked like he was sure of victory. Fei Bao finally insisted on staying. This was her strong request. She wanted to test the opponent's attack strength in order to collect more data for future battles. Yes, that's right. Now everyone no longer thinks that they can defeat the opponent this time. With the tentative attack just now, the opponent's strength has been demonstrated. Fei Bao's exoskeleton armor was carefully modified by Li Zimu. Although this armor is not fully covered, the protection of key organs is also strengthened. Chapter 739, Unbeatable. Fei Bao turned on the small tracking fire control radar on the frame, so that she didn't need to manually control some automatic weapons. After the fire control radar on the frame was turned on, a small automatic cannon on her shoulder began to quickly aim at Manzi's body. Although Manzi had never seen such a machine that humans could wear, he knew that something like a gun muzzle was aimed at him, and he knew that it was not a good thing. As Manzi's body quickly dodged and jumped, the cannon on Fei Bao's shoulder began to rotate and aim. The frequency of Manzi's body transformation began to increase, and the machine gun followed closely without any relaxation. In this situation, Fei Bao could no longer catch the attack with her naked eyes, so she simply switched all weapons to automatic mode and handed over all control to the fire control radar and weapons system of the mecha. With the firing of machine guns and the attack of laser beams, Manzi became more and more nervous. Although his speed should be unmatched in this world, his attack power is not as unparalleled as his speed. If he did not have such speed now, I believe that with his physical strength at this level of transformation, he would not be able to survive in the hands of the opponent, because his movement speed was too fast. He consumed a lot of energy. He had already begun to emit white mist before he entered the recovery period. Faced with such a situation, Manzi was not very anxious. He took out a small bottle from the clothes still hanging on his body. There was nothing else in the bottle, just blue energy capsules. Manzi opened the bottle, took out 2 and put them in his mouth. And then the white mist on his body began to slowly dissipate. Manzi did not stop dodging during this series of pill-taking actions, because the laser and machine gun bullets did not let him go. After taking the medicine, the barbarian became more energetic. He no longer evaded blindly. He began to attack Fei Bao tentatively while approaching. Due to the inertia of speed, every attack of the barbarian was powerful. At the speed of the barbarian, Fei Bao had no chance to evade the attack, although it was just a simple bite and kick, and some attacks with the tail. But every time Fei Bao was hit, he would be beaten back many steps. There were several times when the barbarian's attack was too strong, and Fei Bao was beaten and rolled on the ground for several circles, so that her weapon could only stop attacking for a while. When this happened, Manzi started to attack continuously. As long as Fei Bao didn't stand up, some of his weapons couldn't attack normally. Only when she stood up after withstanding the attack, Manzi started to fight around her, and then looked for opportunities to attack effectively again. After 2 or 3 times of this, Fei Bao's exoskeleton armor system began to alarm. Both the energy consumption and the degree of protection have been reduced to less than 25%. If the attack continues, Fei Bao may suffer real damage. Wu Ai asked Wu Xian to start the RV. Manzi stopped attacking when he saw the RV started. He was afraid that the opponent would have more powerful means of attack. The RV came to Fei Bao's side, opened the door, and everyone pulled her in. Chapter 740 Time required for upgrading. After the battle between Fei Bao and Manzi just now, Wu Ai already knew that he should not be able to hurt the other party without using some extreme means. Manzi's speed can be said to have won the chip of invincibility. If he wants to leave, the RV should not be able to catch up in a short time. The most important point is that the opponent's transformation time has lasted for more than 15 minutes. Even Cherry, who can use gene capsules twice in a row, can't last so long. No wonder he dared to come to chase alone. It turns out that he really has this ability. Manzi stood on the road and looked at the RV in front of him. Wu Ai was also watching him through the holographic system. Wu Ai was thinking whether to use the complete version of Gundam to compete with Manzi. But if he turned into a complete version of Gundam and let the other party run away, then he would be too passive. He didn't want the news of the RV that could transform into a robot to spread. Otherwise he would become a fat sheep in the mouths of all the nearby forces that were interested in it. Thinking that he couldn't kill the other party 100%, Wu Ai decided not to waste time anymore. Anyway, the biometal used in the RV shell is very strong, and the other party's body should not be able to cause any damage to it. The RV turned around and started to speed away, and at this moment, Manzi also started to attack directly. He launched a rapid attack on the RV, which had not yet reached its maximum speed. After attacking more than 100 times in a short period of time, he gave up. The external camera of the RV saw the dented body of the car, and Wu Ai could only shake his head and smile bitterly. Fortunately, the RV can be upgraded in the near future, and this degree of damage should be completely restored. Manzi looked at the RV going away and spit fiercely. He also knew that he could not catch the opponent in his current situation. His current transformation effect is still too weak. He needs to find a transformation effect that can target the RV. Next time, he will definitely not let this RV go. Seeing that the barbarian didn't catch up with them on the holographic image, everyone was relieved. If the other party kept chasing them, it would be a very difficult thing to do. Now everything is fine. They need to find a place where they can hide safely to upgrade the RV. It should be easy to find a place to upgrade in this world. Anyway, there are abandoned city ruins here. As long as you hide in it, unless you are someone who knows the specific situation, you will definitely not find anything. In order to be able to get as far away from the city where the barbarian is, Wu Ai and others decided to travel at least more than 10 days. When he was free, Wu Ai asked Wu Xian how long the upgrade plan would take. If all the materials of my Gundam robot are used to complete the upgrade, it will only take 7 days. Hearing this, Li Zima couldn't help but ask again. Are there any other upgrade plans? The body material of the RV is now a kind of biometal material. If it is integrated with the recycled Gundam construction materials, the defense of the new RV will be improved to a certain extent. In this case, the upgrade time will take at least 15 days. Wu Ai screamed when he heard it. What? At least 15 days? That means it is possible that the upgrade time may exceed 15 days? It's exciting to think about surviving for more than 15 days in such a world without the protection of the RV. Chapter 741 showing the results. Other people in the RV came over after hearing Wu Ai's exclamation. Except for the busy Viper. Everyone came to the conference table and sat down. What's going on? Boss? I just heard you yelling. Gu Xiaoxi and Li Zima rarely quarreled recently, because Gu Xiaoxi's recent fruits were ripe. So the two of them were now dominated by the attributes of foodies, and did not fight. After Li Zima asked this question, she took out a washed melon from Gu Xiaoxi's chest pocket. She didn't know what happened in Gu Xiaoxi's space, and there were so many ripe fruits for them to squander. Wu Ai recounted what happened just now. The two little girls, who were eating fruit, were the most emotional. 15 days is such a long time that not much fruit can be preserved. If they don't eat fruit for 1 day, they will feel very uncomfortable. If they can't eat fruit for 2 consecutive days, the two looked at each other, shuddered, and tears began to roll in their eyes. Wu Ai ignored the dramatic expressions of the two little girls. Anyway, Li Muzi came forward to solve it in the end. He still remembered the pajamas incident last time. He thought that Li Zima should be able to tell who was the big and small king. As expected, everyone agreed on the best way to upgrade. So before finding the final upgrade location, everyone started preparing for the days without RVs. No one knew what Viper was busy with recently. After notifying him about this matter, he was very perfunctory and asked everyone to just wait. Wu Ai felt that he should ask about the other party's recent status, as if he was hiding something from everyone. Don't tell me what biological weapons you are researching recently. What are you busy with recently? Wu Ai finally asked. Although he didn't want to get involved too much in everyone's personal affairs, he needed to ask about some things if they involved everyone. Captain, what I have done recently will not affect you in any way. Secondly, it is a surprise for everyone. If I handle this matter well, it will also improve the combat effectiveness of our team. Although Viper said it in a mysterious way, since he had said that it would not affect everyone, he believed it completely, so he did not ask any more questions. The RV drove for 9 days in this short period of peace. Although there were some minor troubles on the road, it was easy to avoid them for the RV that was suspended. When everyone was deciding to upgrade in the underground garage of a collapsed building, Viper gave everyone a surprise that was hard to accept. Captain, we will start upgrading tomorrow, so I rushed to finish it before the upgrade. Now let everyone witness the result of my recent busyness. A heart that can live with everyone. As Viper introduced, a tall beauty walked out of his space. The beauty was wearing a Gain-type protective suit, and her figure was still good even under the cover of the protective suit. There was a faint smile on her delicate face, and a sly smile in her eyes. Chapter 742, The Cowardly Xioner. Everyone was amazed to see this beautiful woman who no longer looked like Yuju come out, in order to keep everyone in the dark. Even the avatar that usually appears on the holographic image is the original Yuju's image. Now that everyone knows, this face will appear in the holographic image in the future. Are you Xiner? Although Wu Ai already had the answer in her mind, she still asked tentatively. The beautiful woman nodded and smiled. And when Wu Ai was still in a daze, she wanted to throw herself into the other's arms and hug her. A cold girl suddenly stood between the two of them. No need to guess who this person was. Viper, you helped her create a body without making any noise. You are quite capable. Don't you think you should explain it to everyone? Li Muzi's tone of questioning made Viper sweat coldly. Although he didn't know what methods this new beauty system had, he had seen the methods of the heroine. Lady, spare me. I was forced to help do some small chores. Most of them were done by System Xiner herself. I just provided a very small amount of help. Viper had a sad face, and he felt very wronged. Wu Ai had always been the only one who showed such an expression to beg for mercy in front of Li Muzi. But Viper had also started to keep up with the times and secretly learned it. Fei Bao knew that there was a little problem with what her man did. If he had let out some clues in advance, how could such a thing happen? Fei Bao was also clear about the strength of this big sister. Fortunately, her man was not the main culprit, so he should not be too embarrassed, right? Li Muzi glanced at Viper and said nothing. She looked at Wu Xian coldly, and a cold aura began to spread in the car compartment of the RV. Wu Xian felt the horror of Li Muzi only after she had this body, and she put away her previous little thoughts. Sister Muzi, don't be angry. I was just joking before, but I dare not argue with you. Captain, the reason why I made this body is to serve and communicate with everyone in the future. This body has no special features, and is basically the same as a normal human. This body is really no different from a normal human, except that it can synchronize information with the RV system. Wu Xian finally gave in under the power of Li Muzi. She behaved very well now, and she didn't have the energy to compete with Li Muzi for Wu Ai before. Li Muzi looked up and down at Wu Xian's perfect figure with cold eyes. And then she sneered. Is there really no difference from ordinary humans? Anyone with a discerning eye would know what this sentence means. It seems that the female hero has felt a threat from Wu Xian's figure. Hee hee. Hee hee, hee hee. Wu Xian didn't know how to answer this. It didn't make sense to answer yes or no. It was obvious that the other party was looking for trouble. Sister, I will follow you from now on, and I will listen to your instructions. If you think there is something wrong with my body, then I will not stay in this body after my combat body is completed. Li Muzi frowned when she heard this. She didn't expect that the other party actually had other bodies, which made her feel even more depressed. Chapter 743 15-Day Upgrade and Reconstruction. Before Li Muzi asked about the second body, Gu Xiaoxi asked curiously, are there other bodies? Sister Xian, you are so amazing. Can you make one for me? Gu Xiaoxi's admiration made Wu Xian happy for a moment. But now that there was a female hero in front of her, she didn't dare to do anything rash. My second body is a combat type, so all functions are based on combat as the top priority. That body is not as human as this body. Regarding your desire to build a body, it is impossible. At least not now. Because I am now a silicon-based life form. It will be very convenient to transplant brain information and memory. If you humans want to reach my level, you can't do it without reaching that level of technology. Li Muzi believed most of Wu Xian's explanation, but she didn't believe that humans couldn't have other bodies, even if they didn't have such technology. Wu Xian's terrifying information reserves must have had research information in this area, since the other party had obviously given in. Li Muzi was not a person who would not let go even if she was right, so she stopped being aggressive. Seeing the other party leave and return to the chair at the conference table, Wu Xian patted the majestic mountains and acted as if she was relieved. Her action certainly could not escape Li Muzi's eyes. Although she knew the purpose of the other party's action, she did not continue to dwell on it. The only two men in the RV were quite normal, so although they had some ripples in their hearts when they saw the scene, they still showed the right expression. Wu Xian also smiled slyly when she saw this effect. It seems that the battle between Li Zimu and Gu Xiaoxi may develop into a three-person battle in the future. The two little girls, who were eating fruit, also looked at each other. In this moment of looking at each other, they also made a decision. A decision of an offensive and defensive alliance. Wu Ai completely ignored the weird atmosphere in the RV. He just asked everyone to get ready and start upgrading the RV after breakfast tomorrow. After saying that, he ran away in a dejected manner. I don't know if it was because he felt guilty. The breakfast on the second day was unusually rich, because Wu Xian also helped Gu Xiaoxi and Fei Bao to make breakfast together. With the joint efforts of the three people, the speed and quality of the food have been significantly improved. After everyone had enough food and wine, they rested for a while and moved all the things they needed out of the RV. Under Wu Ai's operation, the RV finally became transparent after the countdown until it disappeared. Everyone was used to seeing the RV disappear, but this time it would take longer. Gu Xiaoxi didn't want to leave the RV too far. Her reason was that it was safe here. After the RV was upgraded, she could go back to eat fruits as soon as possible. Wu Ai couldn't help rolling his eyes. The world of foodies was indeed something he couldn't understand. But waiting quietly here for 15 days was also a good suggestion. At least the danger could be reduced. When everyone was preparing to camp here, Wu Ai noticed that Xianer was still the same ecstatic person as yesterday. Not a fighting body. Everyone looked at Wu Xian, which made her feel a little embarrassed. Chapter 744 Weapons that can only be used by girls. Don't look at me like that. My combat body is not made yet. That body will be made when the RV is upgraded. Because that body also needs a certain amount of good materials. So I can only wait for the RV to be upgraded, and there are materials left before I can make my combat body. Everyone thought Wu Xian's explanation was reasonable. And they also praised Wu Xian's approach of giving priority to upgrading the RV. After all, the quality of the RV is related to the safety of everyone. If there is a problem with the RV, it will be a big loss for everyone. Seeing everyone talking about Wu Xian's goodness, Li Zimu snorted coldly. I don't know if she was unhappy or was standing up for her sister. Everyone spent the day peacefully not far from the RV. The next morning, Li Zimu discovered a bad situation. A team began to search for supplies in the ruins not far away. It is estimated that they may find them in a short time. After a quick discussion, everyone felt that they had to leave here. Although no one could see the RV when it was upgraded, it still had mass in this space. Invisible but tangible. In order not to add unnecessary trouble, everyone decided to leave here. After everyone packed up all their belongings, everyone left the underground garage. For future safety, Li Zimu used a high-explosive grenade to blow up the entrance, so that it would be foolproof. She discovered that the team was also coming here through the unmanned reconnaissance aircraft and some temporary monitoring facilities outside. So she also notified everyone to hide in another place, and then pretended to rush here after hearing the sound. Everyone was talking in a low voice while walking, and Wu Xian came to Li Zimu's side mysteriously. She nudged him with her shoulder and whispered to Li Zimu, Sister Zimu, I know you have some prejudice against me, thinking that I have taken your job and posed a threat to your sister. But you have to know that we are all in the same boat now. And I am also doing this for the good of the whole team. So please don't be angry with me. Li Zimu looked like she was afraid to get ahead of me. And she said coldly, No. Please don't call me sister. You are probably old enough to be my ancestor. How can I dare to accept your call as sister? Li Zimu's tone showed her mood at the moment, and it seemed that she would not give Wu Xian a good face for a while. Sister Zimu, let's not talk about age. You joined the team earlier than me, so the first one to achieve is the first one, and I should call you sister. This made Li Zimu feel a little flattered. After all, everyone likes to hear good words. Didn't I say before that I could make a weapon? Now I have made it. I think you are the most suitable person for the whole team. Do you think you can use this weapon? Li Zimu was originally fascinated by weapons. When she heard that Wu Xian made a weapon and wanted to give it to her, she was a little moved. Shouldn't a good weapon be used by the boss? Isn't it a bit inappropriate for you to give it to me? Although Li Zimu said this, it was obvious that her words had softened a lot. Sister Zimu, this weapon can only be used by girls. If you don't use it, you can only give it to other sisters. But you must not give it to the captain. Chapter 745 Magical Scope. Li Zimu was immediately interested when she heard this. What kind of weapon has gender requirements? She was also very curious about this. Wu Xian took a rectangular box on her back and brought it to her chest while walking. After she opened the box, she found a high-tech combination sniper rifle inside. Wu Xian took out the scope from the box, then closed the box and carried it on her back. Sister Zimu, this scope is very famous. The lens of this scope is made of a crystal stone I found in the warehouse of the RV. The cutting and polishing of this crystal stone is really time-consuming. I even used the energy dagger worn by the mini Gundam armor in the RV to cut it for a long time before completing it. Hearing this, Lee Zimu became even more curious. She immediately remembered the origin of this crystal stone through Wu Xian's explanation. This crystal stone was given to the venomous snake by the highest leader of the gathering place, when the venomous snake left the gathering place. It is said that it seemed to be found in the stomach of a giant wild boar. The location of the crystal stone does not look like it grew in the wild boar for some reason. Maybe it was accidentally eaten by the wild boar when it was eating. What function does this crystal stone have? It seems that it should not be an ordinary thing. After Lee Zimu finished speaking, Wu Xian gave her an approving expression. The latter was also somewhat smug, with an expression that said, "I knew it a long time ago. This crystal-made scope will have the function of seeing through a molecule after contact with a certain isotope. Simply put, by adjusting this scope, you can see through most substances, which is the strongest requirement of a sniper rifle." "You mean most of them?" Lee Zimu took the scope and said in disbelief. Wu Xian did not continue to say anything. She turned on the power supply button of the scope. When the red light next to it turned green after a few seconds, she directly returned the scope to Lee Zimu again. The scope requires a certain amount of energy to generate isotopes. Once the sealed barrel is filled with isotopes, the scope can be used normally. Lee Zimu did not wait to listen to Wu Xian's explanation. She directly adjusted the regulator on the scope. She wanted to know immediately whether it was as magical as Wu Xian said. She looked at the ruins in the distance with the scope. And then in the adjusted barrel, the steel bars of the ruins began to become very clear, like an X-ray perspective in the hospital. The concrete had disappeared from her field of vision. She could only see the collapsed and irregular steel frame structure in front of her. After adjusting for a while, even the steel bars disappeared. He could completely control the distance and make the material he wanted to disappear directly by adjusting. She was shocked when she put down the scope. With such a scope and sniper rifle, no matter where you hide, as long as the bullet can penetrate, the enemy will have no place to hide within the range. How about it, Sister Zimu? Do you think it's okay? Obviously, Wu Xian was showing off. But so what? This scope is a work of art that can be shown off. Suddenly, she also realized why this weapon cannot be used by men. At least the scope cannot be used by them. Otherwise, there is no need to wear clothes or not. Chapter 746: The Escaped Alliance Team. After learning about the scope of the sniper rifle, Lee Zimu began to be interested in other parts of the gun. But at this time, they had already reached the location where they needed to hide. So the understanding of the sniper rifle could only come to an end for the time being. But at this time, Lee Zimu's fiery eyes could no longer be controlled. She looked at the box behind Wu Xian with her eyes shining. Done! Wu Xian snapped her fingers in her heart. She was very satisfied with her decision. With Lee Zimu's surrender, she believed that there would be fewer things in the future. Everyone looked at the small monitor in Lee Zimu's hand, and they waited for the right time to go out and start the performance. Soon, the unmanned reconnaissance aircraft gave a prompt, and Wu Ai led the team members to move towards the explosion location. The other team arrived at the explosion location first, and less than 1 minute later, Wu Ai also appeared at the explosion site with his men. After both sides found each other, they raised their guns and began to aim. In a scene like this, no one would be stupid enough to use gene capsules directly. Who are you? Tell me the name of the gathering place you are in. And what are you doing here? Without waiting for the other party to speak, Wu Ai acted very strong, as if this place originally belonged to him. The team obviously did not react, and after a few seconds, someone among them answered, "We are from the Alliance, and we need to collect supplies for some things. If this is your sphere of influence, we want to borrow some food, and we will double the compensation when we return to the Alliance." After the man finished speaking, he waited for Wu Ai's answer. They knew that something would happen after the name of the Alliance was reported. If the other party was an enemy, then without saying a word, they would be greeted with a storm of bullets. If the other party wants to curry favor with the Alliance or the Alliance's cooperative forces, then they will be temporarily saved. Wu Ai didn't see everyone in his army clearly from the previous high-altitude perspective. But just now, he found a young man with slightly yellow hair among them. This person's body was covered with mud and dust, and there were a lot of dead branches and rotten grass on his head, which made Wu Ai not notice him at the first time. When the two teams met just now, He noticed that this down-and-out young man should be the stupid son of the Alliance leader. He didn't expect that he would run out. Wu Ai gestured to his team members to put down their submachine guns. Seeing this, the other party was relieved and put down their guns. Wu Ai used barrier-free communication to let everyone act according to circumstances. And then he took a step forward and said, "So you are from the Alliance? How come you are in such a state? We still have some food, so we can let you have a full meal first." When the people from the Alliance heard that they could have a full meal, their eyes were obviously bright. But the other party was still a little wary. In such a world, it is not a good thing for the other party to be too kind. What do you think about the explosion just now? Did you find anything nearby? A person who looked like the captain of the Alliance team asked. And I don't know what he meant by asking this. Chapter 747 Food Trade. Wu Ai realized that his kind answer just now was a little too quick. And the other party was testing him from the side. Are you kidding? You came here faster than us. How can we find anything? Also, this brother's words seem to have a deep meaning. You don't think that our giving you food is a trap, do you? Wu Ai took the initiative and directly pointed out the problem, and then gave a reasonable explanation, which should make them temporarily give up their hostility. Sure enough, Wu Ai said this and the people in the Alliance team began to get nervous again. Think about it. How can it be so good? Will people give you food as soon as you say it? The man who just spoke in the Alliance was relieved. He said with some ease, "Please don't misunderstand us. We don't mean that. We just want to understand." Wu Ai was relieved to see the other party like this. It seems that he guessed right before. There is no kindness without reason in this world. Please don't misunderstand me. I want to give you food for a reason. I heard that your Alliance has high technology. So of course we want to exchange something for this meal. Also, don't look at us. There are only 7 people here, but our combat power is still good. Otherwise, we wouldn't dare to come here directly. We are all smart people. If you have any other thoughts that you shouldn't have, then I don't mind seeing how strong your technological strength is. Such a paragraph is more in line with the common sense of this world. If the problem can be solved peacefully, no one wants to fight. But if one side is much stronger than the other, this situation is another matter. The person who spoke in the Alliance team also carefully looked at Wu Ai's side, seeing that everyone in the other team was wearing uniform combat uniforms and helmets. He felt that these people should be of great origin, and it would be best not to do anything out of line. Don't get me wrong. I'm the captain of this Alliance team. My name is Bai Qi. This is our employer, Xiantian. This team was formed to transport the employer's property. Wu Ai only now knew that the landlord's silly son was called Xiantian. It was such a childish name, and he didn't know if it was his real name. Just now, I heard you wanted to exchange our things for food. What do you want? Bai Qi was polite. But it might be that their current situation determined their way of dealing with people. You look like you've been robbed. I wonder if you still have anything to exchange for food. How about this? What do you think can be exchanged for food? Then you can bring it out for us to choose. Wu Ai felt more and more into the role, and it was really a pleasure to be such a free and easy person. Bai Qi looked back at Xiantian. He was asking for the boss's opinion. The latter was also very hungry, and then nodded weakly in agreement. And the specific matters were decided by Bai Qi. Bai Qi knew what to do with the other party's intention. The first thing he took out was a bottle of energy capsules. He hoped that these capsules could be exchanged for food for everyone to have a full meal. Please, do you think our team is short of this kind of thing? You should show some sincerity. Chapter 748 Weapon Fate. Bai Qi was relieved to see that Wu Ai was not interested in the energy capsule. Although this kind of energy capsule is not rare, it is still very expensive. Otherwise, there would not be many people who could not afford it. Bai Qi nodded with a smile. This time he took out a disc that looked like a flying saucer, the size of an induction cooker. This is one of our Alliance's trump cards. People in our Alliance call it fate. I wonder if you have seen this thing. Wu Ai shook his head directly to indicate that he didn't know about Bai Qi's test. He couldn't pretend to be strong in everything, and he had to leave some flaws for the other party to take advantage of. Bai Qi saw Wu Ai shaking his head to indicate that he didn't recognize this thing. And he also had an understanding of this team. These people should not have fought with the Alliance team. Otherwise they would not show that they knew nothing about this weapon. Although Bai Qi could not see the expressions of Wu Ai and others through their combat helmets, Wu Ai and others' body language did not show fear of this thing. Since you don't know the situation of this weapon, then I will give you a brief introduction. The reason why people in our alliance call it fate is because very few people can escape within its attack range. This weapon is only aimed at people who have not transformed. Although it can cause certain damage after transformation, the effect is not as obvious as that of people who have not transformed. Although there are many fates, most of them are within a range, so few people can escape reincarnation with their fates. So this weapon is called fate, which shows its strength. The use of this weapon is also very simple. Just turn on the safety and press the red button on it, and then throw it over the area you want to attack. This weapon will hover over the attack range for 5 seconds, and its internal horizontal gyroscope will automatically correct its attack posture. During the 5 seconds of hovering, the Mingo will fire the 10,000 bullets stored inside it in a fan-shaped area and spiral rotation. With such attack intensity and frequency, no ordinary person can escape within the range covered by it. After Bai Qi introduced the usage and lethality of the Mingo, Wu Ai couldn't help but feel frightened by this weapon. No wonder the barbarians and the Alliance's oil tanker transport team started fighting directly before. If the other party used such a weapon, then the more than 4,000 people who didn't have time to transform would really be not good enough. Wu Ai didn't say anything, which made Bai Qi very satisfied. Such weapons are rarely exchanged by their alliance. If their current situation is not really critical, they will not use such weapons to exchange food. However, Bai Qi guessed wrong. The reason why Wu Ai did not speak was not because he really wanted this weapon. He just thought that the idea of this weapon was not bad. But just when he wanted to say that he could exchange it, Li Zimu snorted disdainfully through barrier-free communication. Humph. What's so good about such things? I don't even bother to make such things. Such weapons are only effective for some ordinary people. There are not so many ordinary people we meet. So this is just a chicken rib. Chapter 749 Shot. Gu Xiaozi was not afraid of trouble. She waited for Li Zimu to finish, and then immediately said, "Aren't there many ordinary people we met? I don't think so. Besides, wouldn't it be very convenient if we had such a weapon when we met those white monsters before? Why didn't you think of making such a weapon then? I don't know what happened to the two foodies. They actually started fighting in such an occasion. Okay, you all bear with it for a while. When you have time, you can find a place to fight one-on-one." After saying that, Wu Ai no longer paid attention to the two idiots. He still had business to deal with. "Captain Bai, your weapon is indeed very powerful, but I think it's still a little less. If you can take out 5 such weapons, I will definitely let all of you have a full meal." After Wu Ai finished smiling, Bai Qi's face was not very good. He finally believed that these people had no good intentions. This was obviously robbery. "Brother, I think you also know the power of this weapon. Isn't it a bit too much for you to ask for so many at once?" Bai Qi tried to use a slightly tougher attitude to make Wu Ai compromise. But how could Wu Ai be scared by the other party's words? "Captain Bai, the reason I want so much is just to make an equal request. You are not a small number of people, and judging from your appearance, many of you should have used gene capsules. I don't need to tell you how much food such a group of people may consume. If our combat uniforms are not bulletproof, your weapons are useless. But with this weapon, we can have a kind of heart plunder." "Oh no. That's wrong. We do have a new self-defense weapon, so we will no longer be afraid of stronger teams in the future." Wu Ai's words were both a warning and a way of telling the other party that this weapon would have no effect on them. After hearing this, Bai Qi was a little unsure. If he really gave them 5, they would lose a means of self-protection. A team member behind Bai Qi fired a shot at Wu Ai at Xian Tian's implicit signal, and the latter did not even shake his body, but just flicked the part hit by the bullet with his hand, as if nothing had happened. "Does this brother who fired the shot think that we are unable to provide you with food? Does he want to kill us all and rob all the food? I told you before that our combat uniforms are bulletproof, but you still waste bullets to verify what I said. It seems that you have a lot of weapons and ammunition." As he said this, Wu Ai opened the safety of the submachine gun, as if he was ready to start fighting. Bai Qi certainly understood the whole story of this matter, and he could only act according to the script reluctantly. He didn't dare to really offend the people in front of him now. He turned around quickly and slapped the shooter in the face, and then asked the people behind him to pull the man over and start punching and kicking him. He saved the man's life in disguise. If Xiantian had spoken, the man would probably have been hit by a bullet. Wu Ai certainly understood the play, and he was also cooperating with the other party in acting. If he didn't show any performance, it would be too unreasonable. Chapter 750 Destiny is in hand. Wu Ai watched Bai Chi's lame performance with a playful look, and he smiled meaningfully at him. After Bai Chi taught the team member who fired the gun a lesson, he turned around and happened to see Wu Ai's smile. He instantly felt that the other party seemed to have seen through their play. Fortunately, the other party did not take any further action. So even if his play was seen through, as long as the other party did not make it clear, they could only treat it as if the other party did not know. Bai Chi glanced at Xiantian, and his face was also a little embarrassed. After all, Bai Chi was busy with all the team's affairs now, and his approach was more or less inappropriate. But who made him the boss? Even if what he did was not right, Bai Chi, as the captain, could not say anything. I really feel sorry for what happened just now. Although my team member did something unforgivable to you, please forgive him, because we are now fleeing and there are only a few people. In order to make up for my guilt for you, I decided to agree to trade 5 life patterns for food. Please be kind, brother. Wu Ai smiled with some disdain and said, originally, this is the condition of the transaction. Now you want me to spare the person who shot me by trading? I don't know who is more shameless between us. Bai Chi also knew that they were the ones who were shameless. But there was no other way now. He could not give more fate. Bai Chi bowed deeply and said, brother, we really don't have more fate to exchange for food. Fortunately, you are not injured. If you really can't get over it, then shoot me. Wu Ai didn't think much of this method. In such a world, it is impossible to threaten others in this way. Wu Ai didn't think there was anything wrong with it. He directly picked up the submachine gun and switched to single-shot mode and fired. Although his series of actions were smooth, it took at least 2 seconds to perform the shooting action. The position of his shooting was not very accurate. After all, he shot in a hurry, so he aimed at the larger target of the torso. Bai Chi was not a fool. He asked Wu Ai to shoot but did not say that he would not dodge. So Wu Ai's shot did not hit Bai Chi. Fortunately, the people behind Bai Chi just beat up the team member who shot Wu Ai. Otherwise this shot might have accidentally injured other people behind Bai Chi. Wu Ai watched Bai Chi, who had already dodged the bullet in a panic, climb up, and he could not say anything more. Anyway, he was not injured by the previous shot, so it would be inappropriate to dwell on it. You are really good. That's enough. I won't waste my time on you. Bring us your horoscopes, and we will give you food. Wu Ai had never wanted to have any dealings with these people, so the current situation was just a coincidence. Bai Chi waved and asked someone to bring a large backpack from behind, which contained horoscopes packed in hard plastic boxes. Wu Ai opened and checked them one by one. There was no sign of these weapons being used. And then he asked Viper to carry these things behind him. Since the weapons are already in hand, we will give you the food right away. Chapter 751, Don't Leave. Wu Ai was not stupid enough to share the food with the other party directly, because it was not only difficult to control the amount of food, but he was also afraid that the packaging of the food would be seen as strange, because they needed to survive outside the RV for more than 15 days. They had to bring some packaged and easy-to-store food. If the dates on the packages were seen by someone with ulterior motives, it might cause unnecessary trouble. Except for him. Everyone else on Wu Ai's side started to help cook the meal. With more people, the speed would be faster. Although Bai Chi was a little curious about these people's behavior, the smell of the other party's cooking still proved that it was food. After the dishes were ready, Bai Chi was a little embarrassed. After all, these were things that needed to be eaten. If there was any problem, it would be a big deal. Wu Ai also noticed the embarrassed expression on Bai Chi's face. But before he could say anything, Wu Xian opened the mask of her combat helmet, took a bowl and started eating. She ate a little of each food, letting the members of the Alliance team watch her eat all kinds of food. Then she took out a tissue to wipe her mouth, smiled and closed the mask of her combat helmet again. Most people didn't pay much attention to how many foods this beauty ate. After all, who would pay attention to anything else besides her when such an elegant beauty eats? Only Bai Chi was relatively good. He could bear not to look at Wu Xian's face. He felt temporarily relieved after watching him eat all the food. Bai Chi asked his team members to go eat. Only a few people, and Xiantian, did not come forward. They were not hungry, but they were still not sure about the food. A small metal thermometer-like thing was taken out of Xiantian's arms. He handed it to Bai Chi and stopped moving. His eyes were staring at Wu Xian, who was covered by the helmet. Bai Chi checked all the food, and then saw that the Alliance members who had eaten were fine. Only then did he dare to take a bowl and give some to Xiantian, and put it in front of him. Wu Ai was a little confused about Wu Xian's behavior. Now it seems that they are not entangled in other things. But Wu Xian's beauty is even better. Looking at Xiantian, who was eating without looking at his rice bowl, Wu Ai knew that they should have something to do during this period. These people in the alliance are really good eaters. They didn't eat enough after making so many things before. Xiantian, the son of the leader of the alliance, also joined in the booing and kept shouting that he wanted to eat the food made by the beautiful woman. As a last resort, they had promised to let these people have a full meal before, so they could only make some more. When the group headed by Xiantian were so full that they couldn't move, Wu Ai could only laugh helplessly that these people were really stupid. Since all the members of your team have eaten their fill, we need to leave. Our deal is officially complete. After saying this, Wu Ai took the lead and turned to leave, while the other team members packed up the food they had just cooked and prepared to leave. Wait! You can't leave yet. A shout interrupted Wu Ai's steps to leave. Bai Qi was also worried when he heard this voice. He knew that things might develop in a bad direction. Chapter 752 Xuantian's Dream. The one who spoke was, of course, the silly son of the landlord. He saw that the beautiful lady he had chosen in his heart was leaving, which he could not allow, because he had just eaten too much. His movements were now restricted to a certain extent. Everyone, where do you want to go? If you don't have anywhere to go, why don't I take you to the city where our alliance is located? You have saved the lives of all our team members in disguise, and we should thank you in the beautiful environment of the city. Wu Ai certainly knew what this big pig's hoof was thinking. It was Wu Xian who had caused the trouble just now. I'm really sorry. We appreciate your kindness, but there's no need to thank you. This is a normal transaction for us. There's no other gratitude complex. We won't disturb you to rest. We'll just say goodbye now. This time Wu Ai never stopped, even if Xiantian kept shouting behind him. Wu Ai and the others never turned back to answer, seeing Wu Ai and the others disappear from his sight. Xiantian hammered the stone beside him in frustration. Bai Qi saw that nothing unexpected had happened, and he breathed a sigh of satisfaction. He was very clear about his master's character. When he saw such a beautiful lady in the other team, he was worried about this matter. Fortunately, Xiantian gave up the entanglement in the end, which made him a little happy, because they could return to the control of the alliance earlier. Bai Qi, we will follow them in a while. I must get that woman. There are several women in their team. Maybe those women are also the best choice. God really takes care of me. I have suffered so much. If all these beautiful ladies can belong to me, I am willing to live 10 years less. Bai Qi frowned. It seemed that the boss still hadn't given up the idea. Young alliance leader, we need to return to the control area of the alliance as soon as possible and contact the main city in time. We have lost contact with the main city for many days. The main city may. Bai Qi was interrupted by Xiantian before he finished speaking. That's their business. I don't have any idea about that position. Whoever wants to sit can sit. If there are these beautiful ladies, I can also use that position to exchange. As one of the confidants sent by the young alliance leader's mother, Bai Qi not only has the task of protecting Xiantian, but also needs to let him complete the task assigned by the alliance leader and return safely. Now the mission assigned by the leader has gone to waste. If he lets the young leader do this, then the young leader's mother will blame him, and he will be in trouble. Young leader, the team has gone far away, and we have no chance to catch up for the time being. Why don't we return to the alliance first, and then drive out to look for it, so that the efficiency can be higher? Bai Qi thought that this would make Xiantian give up chasing the team now, but he didn't expect that the other party had already prepared for this. Bai Qi, don't think I don't know what you are thinking. I have put a tracker in a box in the fate, so I will only go back to the alliance with you if I find my beautiful wife. Chapter 753 A Rescue That Might Be a Joke. Having said this, Bai Qi knew that his persuasion was meaningless. Since Xiantian was already in a rage, he would not let go unless he was satisfied. After the alliance team rested for an hour, Xiantian took out a signal receiver from his body, which clearly marked the distance and position between Wu Ai and others and them. Xiantian smiled lewdly, and he had already imagined many exciting scenes in his mind. Bai Qi sighed bitterly when he saw the signal receiver. How could the alliance's technology be used on such a person? Moreover, this signal receiver was not the first time he had seen Xiantian take it out. Every time this thing was taken out, the fate of one or more women would be changed. These things were not something that a small team leader like him could participate in. Now his primary goal was to ensure that this guy returned to the main city of the Alliance alive. Boss, why didn't you let me destroy the signal transmitter? You clearly knew the function of this thing. Why did you keep it? Li Zimu was a little puzzled. Shouldn't such things be disposed of directly after they were discovered? Wu Ai found the little thing when he was checking the packaging of the fate. How could Xie Tian do it perfectly? Of course he found such a trick. Wu Ai had a purpose for not throwing away the signal generator. Now that they were no longer protected by the RV, a small team from the Alliance following behind them could be considered a useful thug. If they encountered any difficult forces, Xie Tian, the pervert, would also come to save them for the sake of the beauty. Wu Ai seemed very proud after saying this. He felt that such a scheming should not be possessed by other members of the team. After hearing this, Viper began to frown, as if he had something to say, but was afraid to say it. After hearing this, Li Muzi chuckled. It was rare that she hadn't laughed much recently. Wu Ai felt pleased to see the beautiful woman smile. But when he realized that it might be a mockery of him, he said with some displeasure, "What's wrong with you, lady? Is there anything wrong with what I just said?" Wu Ai certainly wanted to argue. And now, he couldn't let down his reputation as a wise man. You're right about what Xie Tian is like. And you're not wrong about him coming to rescue us if we're really captured. After Li Muzi said this, Wu Ai was even more proud. He looked like a victorious rooster, with his chest puffed out and his chin raised. Li Muzi continued to smile and said, "But he should only save women. For you and Viper. I think he should be happy to see you get caught." Fuck. Wu Ai suddenly thought of something. He regarded the whole team as a collective. This kind of thinking did not exist for Xie Tian. In his eyes, there were only beauties. As for men, the end should be imaginable. In this case, is it necessary to keep the signal generator? His calculations were meaningless after Li Muzi's speech. But if he let Xie Tian, the pervert, go so easily, he felt that it was a bit cheap for him. So he decided to keep the signal generator first, and use Xie Tian and others when necessary, and then throw it away. Chapter 754. Is there something wrong with the sniper rifle? Regardless of how the people from the Alliance followed behind, Wu Ai and his team members also lost a lot of food because of the weapons trade. Although they can also use these weapons to exchange for more food, the quality of the food exchanged in that way cannot be guaranteed. Li Zimu and Gu Xiaoxi were very unhappy because the fruits she brought were used to make food and given to the people of the Alliance. They also showed it very obviously along the way. Wu Ai felt that the fruits were not as valuable as food, and they were not conducive to preservation. So he used them all. But he still underestimated the resentment of the two girls towards him. Wu Xian was very happy to see this situation. Now was her chance to show off. Sister Zimu, don't be angry for now. I'll tell you about the sniper rifle. After hearing about the sniper rifle, Li Zimu calmed down a bit. She was still very interested in the gun. This sniper rifle doesn't need any information from the observer. I don't need to talk about the distance and the position of the sight. You already have a general understanding. Let me talk to you about the bullets. The bullets of this gun are also specially made. This sniper rifle can fire special bullets with many effects, such as armor-piercing, high explosive, and bullets that can be attached with special liquids and freezing. The various effects depend entirely on what kind of bullet is used. There is nothing it cannot produce. Only what you can't think of. The bullet is divided into three major parts. The first level is the propulsion acceleration part. The second level is the electronic chip adjustment part. And the third level is the additional part. I won't tell you much about the effect of the first level. This is responsible for the acceleration of the bullet. But the bullet of this gun does not require chemical energy, but uses a more advanced speed-off pressure acceleration method. You don't need to understand this. Just know that this part has a strong acceleration ability. The second part is the electronic chip adjustment part, which is responsible for correcting it before the first part is separated, and making necessary adjustments to the temperature, humidity, wind direction, and other subtle issues that affect the hit. The additional parts of the third part are mainly to replace some special effects, carry some necessary liquids, or add some necessary substances. The effective hitting distance of this gun and bullet is within 15,000 meters. If some special additional parts are used, the range can be extended. After listening to Wu Xian's introduction, Li Zimu's eyes lit up at that time. How could she not like such a super powerful weapon? Sister Xian, let's not say anything else. I am really grateful that you can let me use such a weapon. Although I have good self-protection ability in the team, I still lack pure lethality. Now I have this weapon. I can make up for it. In the future, the boss will have to. Lizima was having a blast. But suddenly she realized a problem. Why didn't Wu Xian introduce the sniper rifle itself? Sister Xian, I have a question now. Why did you introduce the scope and bullets of such a powerful weapon, but not the core gun itself? Lizima's question made Wu Xian a little embarrassed. She smiled and said, I'm afraid that if I talk about the gun first, you won't want it anymore. Chapter 755 2-pound battery. What? Is there something wrong with this sniper rifle? Lizima shouted this loudly. And the other people in the team also focused their attention on them. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. There's nothing wrong here, Wu Xian quickly explained. And everyone knew that these two girls shouldn't have any major problems. So they just looked at them and stopped paying attention to them. Big sister, your voice is too loud. Speak softly so I can hear you. Hey, don't stare at me first. The problem with the sniper rifle I mentioned is actually not a big problem. It's just that the firing method of this gun is a bit special. After hearing Wu Xian say that the firing method of the sniper rifle was special, and it was not that the gun itself had any quality problems, she was a little relieved. Sister Zimu, how could I give you a gun with quality problems? Think about it. It's impossible. This gun is not an ordinary gun in the usual sense. You know that the bullet is very special. So it's not a big problem that the shooting method is a little special. Lizima felt that she was a little too sensitive just now after hearing this. After all, Wu Xian would not let the team members use weapons with quality problems. Wu Xian took out the box behind him again, and quickly put the sniper rifle together. The barrel of the full version of the sniper rifle is not very long, and this gun looks similar to ordinary sniper rifles. However, the material and structure of this gun are not the same as ordinary sniper rifles, and it doesn't even seem to have the most basic recoil device. Sister Xian, what is different about this gun? Tell me quickly. Lizima looked impatient, which made Wu Xian smile slightly. Look at you. This gun is already given to you. Why are you so anxious? Okay. Now I will simply tell you the difference between this gun and ordinary guns. As you can see, this sniper rifle has no recoil device. Because this gun has no recoil, it does not need such a thing at all. This gun requires a lot of energy every time it is fired. All the energy before the bullet flies out will be converted and stored. In addition to consuming bullets, this gun also needs to be equipped with batteries that can provide energy before each shot. Therefore, if you want to use the power of this gun normally, you must carry a lot of extra batteries. At this point, Lizimu also understood something. If such a powerful weapon requires such an external energy supply and consumption device, then the energy required for this gun must be no small number. Sister Xian, just tell me, how heavy is each battery in this gun? Wu Xian knew that Lizimu must have wanted to use this gun. Otherwise she wouldn't ask this question. It's not too heavy. A battery weighs about 2 kilograms. You can just throw it away after use. Lizimu was a little confused after hearing this. She finally understood why this gun was introduced last. Now she has actually been attracted by the powerful firepower and range of this gun. If she gave up because of the battery weight, it would be a pity, to be honest. Chapter 756 Target of the Sniper Rifle. But to fire one bullet, she must carry a 2-gene battery. If she carries 10 bullets, doesn't that mean she needs to carry 20-gene batteries? How heavy is her body? Besides, what can 10 bullets do? Wu Xian also saw that Lizimu was struggling, and at this time, she needed to give the final word. She took out a battery and quickly ran to the gravel in front. The sniper rifle was directly placed on the stone, and then a thumb-thick connecting wire was pulled out from the butt of the rifle, and then directly plugged into the battery next to the sniper rifle. Sister Zimu, I have adjusted it now. You can try to shoot. I think as long as you can shoot, no difficulty will make you give up this gun. Everyone heard Wu Xian shout and stopped to look over. It was only a short while ago, and I didn't expect that these two girls would tinker with a sniper rifle. In the end, Lizima couldn't resist the temptation and walked to the shooting position of the sniper rifle. Wu Ai and other team members also came over to watch the fun, wondering what these two people were doing. After Lizima was ready for the shooting position, he began to adjust the scope to find a target to attack. After a while, she really found a suitable target. Lizima pulled the trigger, And then a green light appeared at the muzzle of the sniper rifle. And then, the gun was silent, and did not show any movement. The connection between the battery and the sniper rifle popped open with a slight sound. And the battery was automatically disconnected from it. Everyone did not care much about these. What they wanted to know urgently was what target she had hit with this shot. Lee Zimu certainly saw the situation of the target being hit in the scope. But everyone did not know the situation of the target, because they could not see the location of the target. Lee Zimu did not tell everyone what target she had hit. After packing up the sniper rifle, she put it on her back and headed forward. Everyone knew nothing. Since he didn't say anything, everyone just followed him and continued to move forward. Boss, this gathering place is no longer profitable. Let's take the people away and burn it down directly, so as not to leave any clues for other forces to come to us. The speaker was a short man with a pointed chin and monkey cheeks. At first glance, you can tell that he is definitely not a good person. Good people usually don't look like this. Before the man called the boss could answer, the upper body of the man next to him, who was talking just now, exploded. A large amount of blood and broken bones and flesh splashed on everyone around him. And with a slight sound, the lower body of the man also fell to the ground. No one present knew what had just happened. Why the man exploded directly? If it wasn't something like gods and ghosts, then someone must have aimed at them with a heavy sniper rifle. Although these people were not very afraid of death, they couldn't accept that he died so tragically in front of them for no reason. Only a ravaged girl not far from the corpse had a surprisingly happy and excited expression on her face. Chapter 757 The Tragic Survivor. The man whose upper body was blown up was the target that Lee Zimu had found before. When she was looking for the target through the scope, she happened to see him on a girl. Looking at the other party's movements, and the people around her constantly cheering and cheering, she was able to judge what happened before and after, coupled with some fallen bodies, and people with tied hands and feet around. She was even more certain that she must shoot and kill the sharp-nosed and monkey-faced man. But she also knew something about the power of the sniper rifle. If she shot in this situation, the girl under the man would probably suffer as well. Fortunately, the man stood up to please the boss who came over. So this gave Lee Zimu the best opportunity to shoot. A living person was blown up directly, and the others did not dare to stay here for long. As they all ran to the car they came in, these people ran away in shame. After a long time, the people who were tied up around them came to their senses. They trembled and untied the ropes, and didn't know what to do for a while. The supplies had been loaded into the car by those people, so they had nothing to eat after the car was driven away. The gathering place has been almost destroyed, and now they can't stay or leave. When these people were at a loss, Wu Ai and others finally came here. Everyone looked at the corpse whose upper body had disappeared, and they knew that the target of the shot just now was the man on the ground. Wu Ai and others were all fully armed, and these survivors did not show much fear, because they did not even have the capital to be afraid now. A middle-aged bearded man who looked a little melancholy came over, and he said directly without any introduction, "If you want supplies, then I'm very sorry. We just experienced a looting, so there is nothing for you to take. If you want to plunder people, I think you guys should also go through a battle before you can get something. But by then, I don't know whether your efforts will be proportional to your gains." The bearded man spoke with some skills, saying both soft and hard words, which was also to persuade Wu Ai and others not to attack them again. Lee Zimu looked at the girl who had already stood up, and she still didn't seem to be wearing clothes. She instinctively wanted to take responsibility for the person she had just saved. So she took out a set of ordinary clothes from her backpack and gave it to the girl. The woman looked a little scared and flustered when she saw the clothes handed over by Lee Zimu. Lee Zimu's combat helmet was dark and shiny, and he looked quite imposing. She sighed when she saw the woman's expression, then opened the visor of her helmet to reveal her smiling face. She hoped that this would make the woman in front of her less afraid. The woman saw that the person who handed her the clothes was a beautiful girl, and her fear was reduced for a while. But she still didn't dare to reach out to take the clothes from Lee Zimu's hand. It seemed that the woman was already a little nervous because of the fear, and she didn't dare to accept any good intentions easily. Lee Zimu looked at the woman in front of him and felt a little reluctant. She stuffed the clothes into her arms, then stood up and returned to the team. Chapter 758 People Who Want to Become Devils. Wu Ai sighed when he saw the situation of this gathering place. It was obvious that these people might not have the conditions to support their survival. They'd lost their shelter, and they also lost their food sources and reserves. In such a world where strength speaks, Their fate can be imagined. Wu Ai also sympathized with the people in front of him. But their food was not much after the transaction. Under the pressure of survival for half a month, he did not dare to support these people anymore. It was estimated that there were about 100 people who survived. Their current food reserves were not enough for these people to consume. So Wu Ai was still ready to leave here. Night was about to fall, and they needed to find a place to camp. Wu Ai looked at the woman holding the clothes, and he didn't say anything. He led the team members to leave quickly in another direction. After Wu Ai and the others walked away, these people began to be active, and some thoughtful men began to approach the woman holding the clothes. The bearded man before could guess something from the expressions of these approaching men. But a man like him couldn't change anything at all. He found an excuse to go find food. And the bearded man left here. Although he couldn't change anything, he could do it without going along with these devils. The girl holding the clothes also reacted, and her panicked eyes became more desperate. She had experienced such a scene just now, and she didn't expect that her compatriots would do such a thing worse than pigs and dogs. Just when she was completely ready to accept her fate, a few women's shouts temporarily stopped the men's steps. After hearing the shouts of other women, the woman holding the clothes suddenly felt relieved and her hand stopped shaking. Yes, we are all women. And everyone should know that such a thing is not a nightmare for all women. If everyone unites, the other side's men who are so angry are not without the power to fight. Just when the woman thought she was lucky enough to be rescued again, several women in their 30s came to her side and snatched the clothes she was holding. The warm clothes she was holding were snatched away in an instant, and a coldness that lost the last shelter came unexpectedly. Before the woman had time to start despairing, two sturdy men rushed towards her. How could she resist such a situation with her small body? She was directly pounced on and pressed to the ground by the two men. Because she had no clothes on her body, her back was soon rubbed on the ground full of stones and bleeding. At this time, the pain in her back could no longer make her feel anything, and her only sense now was hearing. What she heard was the sound of more and more men running towards her with loud and obscene laughter, and the heavy breathing of more and more men around her. Several women in the distance began to curse and fight loudly because of the ownership of clothes. And there were only these devilish voices in her world. If I can survive this time, I would like to turn into a devil in this world, and not let any human being breathe fresh air again. There was no despair on the woman's face, only a hope that she could complete this final transformation and the devilish afterlife. Chapter 759 Transformation. The woman didn't know how long she had been ravaged. The concept of time had already made her feel so long. What brought her back to her senses was the sound of a gunshot, and she only came back to her senses after a man beside her fell to the ground. Xiantian blew at the muzzle of the still smoking pistol, and he roared angrily, "I told you all to disperse. Are you all deaf? If you dare not stop me, this is your fate." The men surrounding the woman on the ground ran to the side in panic, holding up their pants, and waited until the men left before revealing a woman covered in filth on the ground. The woman was really miserable, and people with imagination might think she was a wax figure that was about to melt. Even a playboy like Xiantian had never seen such an unbearable scene. He walked over to see the woman's condition, and he covered his nose with some disgust and said, "You guys can do such a thing. It really makes me a little bit unbearable." Bai Qi understood Xiantian's thoughts. He might want to save this woman out of some sympathy. But whether this woman can be saved from such a miserable state is another matter. Generally, women will choose to leave this world after experiencing such things. There is no way. Bai Qi still asked a member of the alliance to go forward to take a look, and give her some food and water. If the other party can still eat, there may be a glimmer of hope. The alliance member put down his backpack after he came to the woman. He took out water and some dry food from it, hoping that the woman could still be saved. But what surprised everyone was that no one's thoughts were reflected in this woman. Bai Qi thought it was normal for this woman to not eat or drink in order to die, or to eat these foods and water in order to survive. However, after seeing the water and food, the woman did not choose the above two options. She stood up slowly and gracefully, then took the container of water, opened the lid, and began to slowly pour it on her face. She raised her head and let the water wash away the dirt on her face. An indescribable feeling filled the hearts of everyone who saw her. The woman did not forget to smile while washing the dirt on her face, as if the water could wash away all the dirt in her heart. This little water was only enough for the woman to wash her face and neck. There was still a lot of dirt on her body, and this little water was obviously not enough. The woman looked at the alliance team with regretful and resentful eyes. Some members of the alliance walked towards the woman and took out the drinking water on their bodies and handed it to the woman. This situation made Bai Qi sweat coldly. He obviously knew that the other party did not use the gene capsule. But she could use her eyes to make some people willing to pay for her. You have to know that they don't have much food reserves. And water is even more precious. If the other party is very thirsty and wants to drink water, Bai Qi will not mind wasting some water resources. But what is the situation now? Taking a shower? She has to use the drinking water resources that the alliance members rely on for survival in order to take a shower. This is too unreasonable. Look at the alliance members surrounding the woman. They are like worshipping their gods, kneeling beside the woman with a look of admiration and fascination. Chapter 760 Yin Yang. There are still some members in the alliance who have strong mental strength and can resist such erotic scenes. But the survivors just now did not have such strength. They also staggered towards the woman who was taking a bath in ecstasy, because he had enjoyed too many women. Xiantian was not confused. After watching with interest for a while, he raised his hand and shot at the survivors, who wanted to continue to return to the woman. The woman did not stop her bathing action, but laughed even more unscrupulously. Those men who were very afraid of death just now also started to go crazy. They were no longer afraid of Xuantian's bullets. They ran to the woman like crazy and knelt there with an expression that they had lost the ability to think. Xiantian killed several people in succession, but there was no effect. Then he stopped wasting bullets. He also watched the woman's performance from the side, wondering what she wanted to do in the end. After about half an hour, the woman had washed off the filth on her body. She picked out some of her favorite food from the food of the alliance members. And then she raised her red lips elegantly and ate leisurely. While eating, she did not forget to look at Xiantian. A message that did not require words to convey made Xiantian immediately understand what the woman wanted. Bai Qi, go to the women over there and take back the clothes that belong to them. If anyone refuses to give them, just shoot them. Bai Qi followed Xuantian's orders helplessly. The process of him taking the clothes was very smooth. The women holding the clothes were already scared and pale, and there was no trace of their previous arrogant attitude. After taking back the clothes, Bai Qi handed them to the woman, and the woman quickly put on the white dress. Of course, there was no clothes inside, so this situation was even more tempting to the men. You can call me Yin Yang from now on. I don't like this white dress. I want a red one. Is that okay? With this outfit, charming expression and gentle voice, even a man like Bai Qi couldn't stand it. Bai Qi took advantage of the time when he looked at Xiantian for advice to take his eyes off the woman. Xiantian nodded with interest and agreed to the woman's request. The woman quickly pulled out the dagger tied to Bai Qi's leg, and then without any hesitation, she directly slashed the throat of a kneeling man beside him. This man was one of the men who had bullied her just now. Even though his throat was cut and blood began to flow out in large quantities, he did not show any pain on his face. The bright red blood flowed onto the white skirt of the woman squatting beside him, and soon a corner of the skirt was stained red by the blood. The man finally closed his eyes with a satisfied smile. And then the woman executed all the men who had bullied her like this man. Her white skirt also slowly turned red. When all the men were dead, half of the woman's skirt had turned red. After the woman stood up, she no longer had any emotions for these people. She walked towards the women who robbed her clothes with her bare white jade feet. When those women had the same fate, Yin Yang's skirt was finally completely stained red. Chapter 761, Overwhelming Resentment. Xiantian became more and more satisfied with this woman named Yin Yang after she killed the women who robbed her clothes. He thought it would be very interesting to have such a woman around. Xiantian thought Yin Yang would stop killing after she got revenge, but he didn't expect that she didn't stop killing. The other survivors did not participate in bullying Yin Yang and robbing her clothes, but she didn't seem to want to let them go, as she kept chasing them with a dagger. These survivors began to die in large numbers. The only thing Xiantian did was to have his team members stop the survivors who wanted to escape. Since Yin Yang wanted to kill all these people, she must have her own reasons. The lives of these people were not even worth a centipede to him, the son of the alliance leader. So since there was such an interesting thing in front of him, he also wanted to know the final result. An hour later, there was no living person in the place where Yin Yang was, but she did not put down the dagger in her hand. And Xiantian was a little unsure in this situation. He had given up the idea of keeping a woman like this with him. After all, such a bloodthirsty woman was still a little too dangerous. At this time, Bai Qi discovered that there was a man sneaking around not far away. It seemed that the other party had also discovered the difference here. With a glance, several team members around Bai Chi ran over and caught the sneaky man. The one who was caught was the bearded man who said he was going outside to find food. The man was also a little surprised by the scene in front of him. Yin Yang walked towards the bearded man with a dagger and sneered. The bearded man immediately realized that he might be killed. When Yin Yang walked in front of him, the bearded man finally spoke. Xiao Lian, can you let your uncle die with a clear mind? I don't want to die here in such a confused way. I don't know if it was the words of the familiar person that made her understand something, or if this distant and meaningless name made her temporarily wake up. Yin Yang, who was holding the knife, did not directly attack, and the expression on her face also changed. Yin Yang's expression now was very pure, just like a little girl next door, and she could not think that all the corpses on the ground were related to her. Uncle, I really can't forgive what these people did to me, as long as I think that my experience was caused by them. I feel extremely resentful. Although some people did not participate, they watched all this happen without stopping it, which is equivalent to being the accomplices of those people. Only when these people die can I be free. Although I know that I will disappear after being freed, I just can't get rid of these people. The bearded man also understood. He closed his eyes and said without any nostalgia, Xiao Lian, it's all Uncle's fault. I have no face to see your father if I go on like this. I hope I can't see him down there, so I won't feel guilty. As soon as the voice fell, a bloodline appeared on the man's neck, and a dagger was inserted in his heart. Yin Yang knelt on the ground and cried for a long time. When she stood up again, the girl called Xiao Lian had completely disappeared. Chapter 762 Being Targeted. Yin Yang's expression was full of temptation and charm again. The crying just now had washed away her kind and pure personality. Bai Chi also felt that this woman with extraordinary means was facing a great enemy. He hoped that Xiantian would give him an order to shoot this woman directly. Xiantian also thought that he had gone too far, because his participation just now might have created a monster in this world. If he had not ordered to intercept the survivors who were trying to escape just now, perhaps this woman named Yin Yang would not have untied her knot and become what she is now. But it is very easy to kill her now. But looking at Yin Yang's delicate and sad expression, Xiantian just can't give this order. Yin Yang is as elegant as a well-behaved cat. When she came to Xiantian, she finally spoke. Anyway, I still have to thank you for what happened today. Because of your help, I was born successfully. So you and your people will not be in any danger here today. But please remember, if you meet me in the future, run as far as you can. I will not let any human go. After saying these words, Yin Yang also took out the two small medicine bottles in Xuantian's arms with her slender jade fingers like green onions. I'll just borrow this from you, because all the medicines in our gathering place have been taken away. So I can only borrow a little from you, and I will definitely return it to you in the future. After saying that, Yin Yang turned around and walked away confidently without any hesitation. She didn't worry at all that someone would shoot behind her. Such a woman will definitely become a disaster in the future, Bai Chi whispered to himself. When Yin Yang disappeared into the darkness, all the members of the alliance gradually returned to normal. Xiantian regretted that he didn't make up his mind to kill the other party just now. He felt that there would be big trouble in the future. You didn't see anything about what happened today. No matter what happens, you can't reveal a single word about what happened today. Otherwise you will know my methods. Xiantian could only threaten them like this. And then, they continued to move forward. This place could no longer be used as a temporary camp for rest. Wu Xian had been discussing with Li Zima how to use the sniper rifle most efficiently in the future. Suddenly, she stopped and looked at the distance behind her with a serious expression. Li Zima had been by her side all the time, and he was also very surprised to see her expression. Sister Xian, what's wrong with you? Is there something wrong? Li Zimu also stretched her head out of confusion and carefully observed the darkness behind her. She did not see anything wrong. We seem to be targeted by a strong evil thought. I don't know why the other party targeted us. But if we meet the other party, it will not be good. It was the first time that Li Zimu saw Wu Xian's expression. She also felt that things might be a little serious. Instantly, she thought of the sniper rifle's scope. Although it was a black sky, if it didn't even have a night vision function, it couldn't be called a sniper rifle scope. Li Zimu took out the scope and adjusted it for a while before she found something unusual. When she looked through the scope, she happened to see the moment when Yin Yang left Xiantian. Yin Yang smiled and looked into the distance as if she felt something in her heart, and seemed to be smiling at Li Zimu's eyes in the scope. Chapter 763, She had been here before. Li Zimu saw the dead body on the ground behind the woman, and she also saw all the members of the alliance team including Xie Tian and Bai Qi not far away. But she felt that the people of the alliance team behind the woman were a little different, and she couldn't tell exactly where they were different. She didn't know what had happened between the alliance team and this woman during this period, but she still saw a malicious expression from the woman's expression. Li Zimu hurriedly called everyone to stop, and then she briefly explained the matter. After hearing Li Zimu's story, everyone felt that it was better not to set up camp and eat, and they simply took out some compressed biscuits and water to solve the problem of dinner. As they walked, everyone started to discuss what happened at the gathering place just now, and why there were corpses all over the ground. Gu Xiaoxi was very sure that it might be a massacre carried out by Xie Tian in order to possess the beauty, but no one else thought so except her. Li Zimu said very clearly that in the end, the woman was not left behind, but left there wearing a red dress. She gave away a white dress, and she certainly remembered it very clearly not long ago. Perhaps the white dress has been stained red with blood, and the source of the pigment may be those people on the ground. Although I don't know what happened, there are only a few possibilities that can make such a timid woman change so much. Li Zimu had a brief contact with the woman when she delivered the clothes. Although she can't say that she knows her, she can still roughly judge her personality. But the woman in the red dress she saw in her scope did not have such a personality. From the charming expression on her face, it can be seen that the woman's personality has changed a lot. Could it be because the clothes you sent caused some trouble, so the other party had resentment and wanted to vent it on us? The analysis of Viper was actually close, but this was not the main reason. No one knew that it was Li Zimu's white dress that gave the woman a brief hope. And then, this hope was instantly broken. Yin Yang also felt resentful about such torture, so she also wanted to avenge Li Zimu for this brief hope that was broken. Of course, Wu Ai's team members could not know such thoughts. Who would have thought that a temporary act of kindness would lead to a fatal disaster? In the end, everyone spent a night in a secret underground warehouse, and the unmanned reconnaissance aircraft outside did not find anything. The next day, when everyone finished breakfast and left, Wu Ai found some red powder near the ground door where they came in. But there was not much of this red powder. After picking it up, Viper carefully distinguished it, and he finally determined that it was coagulated blood. Hearing this, everyone also thought of the woman in the red skirt. It might be that she had been here, so the blood-stained skirt on her body would fall off these powders. But why the other party came, but did not do anything and left, they did not know. Now they feel more and more the malice of this world. Without the protection of the RV, it is like losing clothes. However, the upgrade time of the RV has only passed 1 day, and there is still a long time to wait. Chapter 764, The Harmonious Gathering Place. In order to leave this troubled place quickly, everyone's speed of travel has also increased. When it was almost night, everyone finally saw a place that looked like a gathering place and had traces of human activities. Everyone was of course very happy to see this place. They finally found people other than the Alliance team in 2 days. In order to determine whether the humans in this gathering place were friendly, Li Zimu also sent out an unmanned reconnaissance aircraft to observe for a long time. The people in the gathering place seemed to be celebrating something. They all gathered in the open space in the center of the gathering place. There was a large bonfire in the center of the open space. These people held hands and formed a circle. They looked very happy as they sang and danced. The people in Wu Ai's team felt that this gathering place seemed very kind. Although there were patrolmen around the gathering place, they somehow always felt warm. The unmanned reconnaissance aircraft observed for a while, but did not find any problems. So everyone finally decided to go over and contact them to see if they could wait here until the RV upgrade was completed. The 7 of them had not walked far when a patrolman found them. Then the person who found them waved to them happily. This scene was like meeting an acquaintance from your hometown in a foreign place. The kindness of the other party made Wu Ai and others feel relieved. Through this contact, they also found that this gathering place seemed to be very hospitable. When Wu Ai and others came close to the patrol member who saw them, the young man said happily, "Welcome, guests from afar. Where are you going? If you need help, I will do my best to help you." Gu Xiaoxi was very happy, but she didn't like walking on her legs. Wu Ai still maintained a certain degree of vigilance, and he said to the person in front of him very politely, "If it's really possible, we need a vehicle for transportation. and we can exchange it with food. The patrolman was stunned after hearing this. And then he laughed and said, "Dear guests, you may not know that we are not short of food here. Look, if we are short of food here, there will be so much barbecue to eat." Following the direction of the patrolman's finger, Wu Ai could vaguely see pig-like creatures being roasted near the campfire, and everyone was singing and dancing happily around. Since the other party is not short of food, then they have nothing to exchange for things, and they can't exchange weapons. The patrolman may have seen Wu Ai's embarrassment, and he continued to say with understanding, "Although we are not short of food, we also have a lot of vehicles. If you really need it, I can directly send you a car." Gusiosi's head, which was pulled up at the beginning, instantly raised up, and the sweet smile also made the patrolling young man lick his lips. Wu Ai also had some doubts about this gathering place that was somewhat incompatible with the world, so he wanted to get a car and leave here directly. However, Gusiosi and Li Zimu have been complaining about the decline in food quality recently. When they saw the barbecue in the distance, they felt that their legs were no longer theirs, and they had to stay in the gathering place to eat some barbecue before leaving. Chapter 765. Hit. Although Wu Ai felt that there might be something wrong with this gathering place, he could not see anything at present. In addition, the two foodies kept making trouble, so he finally decided to go in and eat something and then leave. When the patrol team learned that they were going to enter the gathering place to eat something before leaving, his expression of joy was even greater than when he saw them. In this way, the patrol team led Wu Ai and his party to the gathering place, and along the way he introduced how much their gathering place was loved by the gods. In general, some large and docile animals often appeared near their gathering place, which made them never go hungry again after having these animals. In such a world, not being hungry is a paradise. So the people here are very kind and willing to share food with others. This is the secret of their gathering place not lacking food. And it is also the secret of everyone's happiness in their gathering place. After saying this, the group came to a fence gate in front of the damaged wall of the gathering place. It seems that they are really friendly to the outside world, and even the door is not made too strong. When they came to the gathering place, everyone greeted them as soon as they saw them, and they were so enthusiastic that there was nothing to say. Soon, some of the team members were assimilated by this joyful atmosphere and let down their guard, but a few people still remained calm enough. Wu Ai Dusha and Li Muzi were such people, and Wu Xian also failed to keep the calmness that she should have as an intelligent program, and got into a heated fight with the two foodies. Although the three did not integrate like the others, their defenses were also lowered a lot. The people in the gathering place hoped that they would take off the protective clothing and helmets that would create a barrier when looking at the mountains. But Wu Ai and others did not agree to do so. They just opened the masks of their combat helmets, so that the other party would not say anything. At first, the people in the gathering place did not bring meat to Wu Ai and others, but only some common fruits and some drinks. They said the meat was not ready yet, and once it was ready, they would serve it to them immediately. In this way, everyone felt the hard-earned relaxation in the joyful atmosphere, and only Wu Ai did not touch the food and drinks in front of him. When these fruits and drinks were delivered, Wu Xian checked them separately. Although the inspection was done very covertly, it did not mean that the inspection was not thorough enough. The results have proved that these things do not have any toxic or harmful ingredients. But Wu Ai just felt that there was something wrong, so he did not touch these things. The people in the gathering place saw that only Wu Ai did not eat or drink, so they deliberately let some young and beautiful girls approach him, and the attack on his drinks became more and more fierce. Li Muzi was most sensitive to the opposite sex around Wu Ai, but for some reason, she did not stop these young and beautiful girls from approaching Wu Ai today. Wu Ai felt more and more that there was something wrong with this gathering place. He now hoped to get a vehicle immediately and leave here directly. As for eating barbecue, they could do it themselves when they had time in the future. When he stood up and prepared to call the team members to leave, he suddenly felt a little dizzy. He knew at the first time that they should have been hit, so he hurriedly closed the mask of the combat helmet. Chapter 766. Imprisonment. Li Muzi also noticed Wu Ai's unusual behavior at the same time. Although she didn't know why he suddenly closed the mask of his combat helmet, her intuition told her that Wu Ai must have done so for a reason. Seeing the drowsy state of the other team members, she seemed to understand the reason. Li Muzi then closed her mask, and then used her authority as a team member to close the masks of others using fingerprint recognition. Although it felt slow, Li Muzi's physical fitness was much stronger than others. So when Gu Xiaoxi's mask was finally closed, she felt a little dizzy. Looking back at the other team members, she was glad for her decision. For some reason, everyone fell to their positions, and now she just held on a little longer than everyone else. Finally, when she fell to the ground, she vaguely heard someone talking beside her. "Captain, I brought these people back. You should give me a lot of rewards." "You kid. You just know how to talk nonsense. When have our rules been broken? You can't do without you. Go find the sheep quickly." With these two sentences, Li Muzi's consciousness completely sank. When Wu Ai woke up again, he could no longer see any starlight. Based on this situation, he could roughly judge that he should be in a room. But there was no lighting in this room, so he didn't know where he was. He was the first to wake up and simply felt his physical condition. The enhanced protective suit he was wearing was not taken off. It might be because the protective suit needed to be certified before it could be taken off. So the other party failed to succeed. All his limbs were tied up, and he was now on a thick pillar. The situation of other team members was not known for the time being. He did not contact anyone through barrier-free communication. And perhaps his team members had not yet woken up. He was really careless. Even though he had been prepared for this gathering place, he did not expect to be tricked in the end. He was sure that he had not touched any of the drinks and food. But how could he be knocked down in the end? Was it some kind of gas-like means? Why didn't the other people in this gathering place faint? He could not figure out the key to this for the time being. So he simply waited for the other team members to wake up. Not long after, the other members of the team also woke up. Although their weapons were taken away now, it was not a difficult task to leave here. Just when Li Zima wanted to take out the weapon that looked like a tattoo on her body, everyone vaguely heard some fighting sounds. Wu Ai hurriedly stopped everyone from escaping. They needed to figure out the current situation before making plans. The fighting ended quickly. It was unknown what caused the fight. It came and went quickly. Not long after, the door in front of Wu Ai was opened, and the light from outside shone in through the crack of the open door. Then the person who came in turned on the lights in the room, and the strong white light filled the entire room. Fortunately, Wu Ai now has a combat helmet as protection, so he will not feel uncomfortable in his eyes because of the sudden appearance of the light after not seeing the light for a long time. Unexpectedly, the second person who came in was Xiantian, and the first person looked like a minion in this gathering place. Chapter 767 Really Not Saving. Xuantian's expression was very happy, and he did not hide his expression at all. At this time, Wu Ai also looked around him with the help of the light. There was actually a stone-like screen blocking him. Seeing Xiantian walk to other places without concealing, Wu Ai guessed that his team members should also be in the screen not far away. Young Alliance Leader. All the people you want are here. Do you think there is anything else you need? Xiantian saw that all the people in Wu Ai's team were here, and he was relieved. Now you know to call me Young Alliance Leader? Didn't your people think they were very powerful just now, and dared to fight with my people? The people behind him immediately had a bitter face, and cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. It's all my fault for not disciplining my subordinates and offending the young leader. I hope the young leader will forgive me and let me go. As for the person who just started, I can let you deal with him, as long as you calm down. Wu Ai vaguely guessed what happened. It was probably that Xuantian's alliance team had some conflicts with the people in this gathering place at the beginning. But after he announced his name, the other party was directly scared. Okay. Don't I know what kind of people you are? I won't care about it because you have made so many contributions to the alliance. But you have to pay more attention to the management of newcomers in the future. Xiantian didn't care about what happened just now. It was probably because he felt that he had got the beauty he wanted. So he was in a good mood. What about the two men of the young leader? Since he escaped the punishment, the man was relieved. He must satisfy Xiantian now. Therefore, the young leader must personally give the order for the treatment of the captured people. Xiantian said without hesitation. What do I want to do with men? Except for the women. The rest will be left to you. Don't look for me anymore. Xuantian's words were equivalent to sentencing Wu Ai and Dusha to death. It was really as the heroine said. This guy really didn't consider that they were all a team. Xiantian had no other thoughts now. He just wanted to quickly remove the helmets of several women, so that he could admire the peerless beauty he had been thinking about day and night. But just as he reached out to touch the helmet of one of the female team members, the person behind him kindly reminded him, Young Alliance Leader, let alone the helmets of these people. Even the clothes on them cannot be torn off. Our people tried before, but they couldn't take them off after a long time. So we could only tie them up like this." Hearing this, Xietian slapped his forehead and said, "I forgot about this. These clothes are good things. They can withstand bullet attacks without any problems. Since conventional methods have no effect on them, I will find some tools to try it myself." When he said this, he rubbed his hands with a lewd smile, looking very concerned about this matter. After a while, everyone went out, and the door was closed again. Li Zima finally couldn't bear it anymore. If Wu Ai hadn't kept asking her to be patient, she would have killed these people long ago. Now that the bad guys have left, she finally cut the ropes that tied everyone up at Wu Ai's signal. Chapter 768 Happy Home. "Boss, from what they said just now, it seems that we have entered a den of thieves. And it is a den of thieves under the command of the Alliance. If we don't leave here, you have just heard the consequences," Li Zimu said indignantly. And she looked at Wu Ai with an expression that said it was all your fault. Wu Ai felt that he was a little wronged, but it was better to leave here quickly. He didn't have the time and mood to argue here. With Li Zimu's help, these simple door locks and the like could not stop everyone. After everyone left the room where they were imprisoned, they saw a long corridor. On both sides of the corridor were some rooms with locked doors, and the doors were all closed tightly, so it was impossible to peek into what was inside. After walking for a while, everyone found that the door of a room was ajar, and there seemed to be people talking inside. Wu Ai signaled everyone to slow down their steps, so that the people inside would not hear the sound of their movements. Wu Ai saw through the crack in the door that the space inside was quite large, and two people were picking and choosing their supplies and talking about them. Seeing that their supplies were piled up next to many backpacks and sundries, he also realized that this should be the place where the people who were helped kept their belongings. Wu Ai decided to go all out, so she asked the female warrior to take action, knocking one unconscious and then controlling the other, watching the unconscious companion slowly fall to the ground. The other person, who was controlled, did not even dare to make a sound. "Don't make a sound. Just follow my instructions. I will let you go later. And as for what you should do, you should know." Wu Ai's cold voice suddenly sounded, and this person closed his eyes and nodded continuously, although he was trembling all over and almost unrecognizable. The detail of closing his eyes was still done very well. "Here is where. What is the situation of your gathering place? Why did you tie us up here?" Wu Ai asked a few questions first. These are the things he wants to know more. To answer your question, we are a hidden gathering place under the Alliance, called Happy Home. The main task of our gathering place is to collect information and recycle materials. And sometimes we also do some things required by the superiors. If you ask why we tied you here, it is because this is the survival mode of our gathering place. And this is how we survive. Wu Ai vaguely understood the problem of this gathering place. It seems that they are really paralyzed and careless by the surface seen here. Then tell me about the model of this gathering place. I want to know how you survive. Wu Ai now wants to know whether this place is the devil's home as he imagined. Our gathering place is mainly to create a peaceful and happy illusion for the survivors passing through here, so that they can enter the gathering place without any defense. One of us has the ability to transform and grow mushroom-like things all over his body. The spores of these things can make people unconscious for a short time. When we deal with the desired targets, all their things will be ours. This of course includes the information they know, everything they have. And, Chapter 769 The cooked duck flew away. And their bodies themselves? Wu Ai saw that the other party was a little hesitant when speaking, so he helped the other party to speak out. The man also looked at Wu Ai and others with fear, because he couldn't see the other party's expression because of the helmet. Since the other party already knew it, he nodded and admitted it without hesitation. Li Zimu suddenly asked at this time, "What are those things by the campfire that we saw before we came in?" Everyone knew why she asked this question, because at that time, she was shouting that she wanted to eat meat the most happily. The person being questioned also knew that answering this question might cause problems, but it would be meaningless if he concealed the answer. In the end, he could only bite the bullet and answer. Those are some survivors who were captured a few days ago and lack food. Today, they can be used to improve everyone's meals. Although she had expected the result of the answer, after this person's answer confirmed Li Zima's thoughts, she still felt disgusted and angry. If the meat had been roasted at that time, would she have eaten it without knowing it? When she thought about what the meat was made of, she couldn't suppress her anger. Finally, She went up and kicked the man in front of her hard. And Wu Ai and others did not stop her. People like this have no bottom line as human beings. In their eyes, the people here are no longer normal human beings. After Li Zimu calmed down a little, the person in front of her had been kicked unconscious. Since it has come to this, everyone will not stay here. Anyway, they just want to get a car. This time, after everyone packed up all the things, they also left the signal generator. It has been confirmed that Xie Tian will not save the man. And there is no practical meaning in having this thing. While the other party hadn't discovered them yet, a group of 7 people sneaked out of this underground base. When they left here, they also saw some rooms specially used to deal with humans. The blood on the ground inside had become an indelible mark. These marks silently proved how many innocent lives had disappeared here. Wu Ai's team did not alarm the people in the gathering place. They tried their best to hide their tracks, and found the parking lot of the gathering place. When everyone saw the vehicles here, they realized that at least they were not lying when they said there were many cars here. Looking around, there were at least 500 vehicles parked here, which should also be brought by the survivors who came to their gathering place. Sighing, Wu Ai led the team to find 2 off-road vehicles in relatively good condition. And then, they quietly left here. When Xie Tian came excitedly with some miscellaneous tools more than an hour later, he finally couldn't control his anger when he saw the empty prison cell. He stretched out his hand and pulled out the pistol from his waist and fired several shots at the people behind him. When he had used up all the bullets in this magazine, he slowly restrained his emotions. Others present did not dare to speak. Only Xuantian's heavy breathing showed how angry he was now. Prepare supplies and vehicles for us immediately. You bunch of trash can't do anything. Wait for me to punish you when I return to the main city. Chapter 770 Low-Profile Protective Clothing. If Xie Tian could exchange the lives of all the people in the gathering place for those beauties, he might agree to the exchange without hesitation. But although he was angry now, he still knew that this gathering place was still very useful. And he couldn't just destroy it. While he was waiting for the team to replenish various supplies, he took out the signal receiver to see how far Wu Ai and others had run, and whether they would exceed the signal reception range. But what he never expected was that the location of the signal transmitter was actually displayed in this gathering place. And it seemed very close to them. Next, the entire gathering place was searched. Since the signal receiver could not accurately give the specific location of the carrier, Xie Tian could only search the entire gathering place. In the end, of course, the signal transmitter was found. And 2 knocked out minions were also found. After a round of interrogation with punches and kicks, Xie Tian could only give up his plan to hunt for beauties in dejection. The other party already knew that he was being followed, and threw away the signal transmitter. Although they could find something by following the traces of the vehicle, this tracking method was too unreliable. After so much trouble, the sky was already bright, and Xie Tian could only agree to return to the main city with Bai Qi, whether it was to report the loss of a city in the previous attack, or he wanted to send more people to search for those beauties. Only after he returned to the main city could he do these things. I just don't know if he, the son of the leader who lost the city, will be punished. If someone takes advantage of him, he may not be able to leave the city in a short time. Wu Ai and others drove 2 cars forward, and this time, they should be completely out of Xuantian's sight. Next, they just need to find a safe and secluded place to hide for a few days. And then, they can get complete shelter after the RV upgrade is completed. Under such a premise, Wu Ai and all the team members felt a lot more relaxed. Although the city and ruins outside are not beautiful scenery, without the enemy's concern, everyone thinks that the scenery outside looks good. The first car driven by Wu Ai was driving in front. And of course Li Muzi was sitting in the passenger seat. After coming out of the gathering place of Happy Home, he found that although the heroine did not have a sad face, the faint between her eyebrows still showed that she was worried. What's wrong? Lady? We have escaped now. Is there anything that worries you? Why don't you tell us and make everyone happy? Wu Ai's joke didn't make the other party laugh. Li Muzi said softly after a moment of silence. I have something that is a problem, but I don't know whether I should tell you. Li Muzi's calm and formal expression made Wu Ai put away his joking mood. He also realized that things might be a bit troublesome. Tell me, if there is a problem. Everyone should know and deal with it as soon as possible. If the problem is not dealt with, it may be a big problem once it happens. Wu Ai thought that the other party might have a new view on the previous calculation in Happy House. So he said the above words. It's not about our team, but other things. Chapter 771 The Form in the Cave. Wu Ai was even more puzzled after hearing Li Muzi say that it was not about the team. What other things could make her worry? Then you tell me. I also want to hear what else worries you. The lady. Besides our team. This time, Wu Ai's tone was obviously much more relaxed. As long as it was not about the team, he was not so worried. I seem to see our old style of protective clothing in the room where we collected supplies just now. After Li Muzi finished speaking, Wu Ai was also stunned for a few seconds. And then he realized the true meaning of this sentence. Are you saying that the people from the gathering place where Viper used to be are also in this world? Only they have the previous version of our protective suits. If that's the case, this is really a problem. If Viper knows about it, he might not be able to ignore it. In addition to the two of them, Wu Xian and Li Zima were sitting in the back of the car. They were both chatting enthusiastically in the back seat. When Wu Ai and Li Muzi heard what they said, Li Zima also lost the mood to continue chatting with Wu Xian. Although Wu Xian had never seen the people from Viper's previous gathering place, the crystal she found in the warehouse came from there. So she certainly knew something. Let's not talk about Viper's idea for now. Just the fact that this friendly army appeared in this world should be considered our ally. Even as allies, we should understand each other's situation. Only by uniting together can we survive better in such a world. Wu Ai certainly agreed with Li Muzi's words. But it is not safe to continue to expose your whereabouts in such a world. If they had a motorhome, it would be more convenient. But now they are like a tortoise without a shell. When they encounter danger, they have no place to retreat. Don't worry. We can search carefully. There shouldn't be any big forces in this area. With such a happy home, how could there be a gathering place with greater power here? Besides, what I saw were just some fragments of protective clothing. Maybe they were picked up by the people in the gathering place. So it's not easy to find the people in the gathering place before the venomous snake. Think about it. How can you easily find the people you want to find in such a world? Everything can only be left to fate. We don't know whether those people are still alive now. So there is really no need to be too deliberate. But Wu Ai couldn't figure out how Lu Feng and his men got in. Although they were lucky to enter the trial tower, they still had some strength. The technology and strength of the gathering place where the Viper was before should not be able to defeat the trial tower. So how did they get in? Wu Ai, who couldn't figure out this matter, felt that there was something wrong. But the information was still not enough for him to make an effective analysis. At night, they found a cave at the foot of a mountain outside the city ruins. Tonight, they decided to stay in this cave temporarily. Wu Xian and Li Zima were responsible for checking inside the cave. Because just now, the drone in the cave found suspected human skeletons. Chapter 772 Humanoid Marks and Corpse Mushrooms. During routine reconnaissance in the cave, the drone discovered some strange things. There were some human-like marks in the rocks. Some stone-like mushrooms grew on the head and hands of the marks. Some humanoid marks also had some such mushrooms on their arms and chests. The venomous snake saw this and said that this kind of mushroom might be dangerous. So everyone camped at the entrance of the cave instead of entering. Li Zimu, who had nothing to do, wanted to go in and take a look. But Wu Xian, who had been sticking to her recently, also wanted to go for a stroll with her. After the venomous snake's stern warning not to approach the mushrooms, the two jumped into the cave. At the beginning, there were no human-shaped marks in the cave, so there were no mushrooms that looked like stones. As we walked slowly inside, we occasionally saw some marks in the shape of mutant animal corpses. There were not many mushrooms on such animal marks, which might be caused by some defense mechanism of animals. After a few hundred meters, human marks began to appear. Obviously, the places where those mushrooms grew were all parts that ordinary human clothes could not cover. So the first conclusion was that if those mushrooms were problematic, they could only attack through the exposed skin of humans. The two of them are now wearing full coverage enhanced protective clothing. So this should reduce the risk of danger. After walking inside for a while, the human marks began to decrease. It seems that some of the sacrificed people also discovered this. But not long after, human marks appeared again. But this time, the marks were not in the usual sense. If you have to say that it is the same as the previous mark, then this mark is the mark of wearing a protective suit. When this picture was synchronously transmitted back to the temporary camp of Wu Ai and others, Viper also saw this scene. In his mind, he immediately pictured a painful human being falling to the ground and struggling constantly, and then praying for a miracle to happen to him when he knew there was no way to survive. However, the miracle did not happen, and he still died in pain. The nutrients in his body began to decompose rapidly. And then the stone-like mushrooms grew on the exposed head. His body quickly decomposed. And in the end only some unusable substances were left like marks inside the protective suit. The Viper's shoulder was gently patted, which also brought him back to his senses from his imaginary space. Wu Ai's eyes were full of understanding and support, while Fei Bao behind him had some tears in his eyes. The human-shaped mark might be a familiar comrade in arms from the past, or it might be a brother who had fought each other through life and death. After seeing the picture, the atmosphere on Wu Ai's side was heavy. It seemed that the people in the original gathering place of the venomous snakes should have come to this world. I wanted to tell you at dinner today that Li Muzi also found some fragments of protective clothing when he was in Happy House. Whether it is out of friendship from fighting together in the past, or for these people being your former comrades in arms. As long as we can, everyone will do our best to help you in them. Chapter 773 Big Red Mushroom. Viper nodded gratefully. And then he said with relief, "When I saw the corpse on the ground, Captain Lu Feng's words seemed to be yesterday. But until you just said these words, I realized that I had been away from them for a long time. Although I still have deep feelings for my former comrades, I also know how to make choices under special circumstances." Wu Ai was surprised that Viper could say such words, which also proved that the core cohesion of their team was still very good. Wu Ai patted Viper's shoulder, and then left without saying anything. Viper should want to be alone for a while now. The exploration duo is still exploring the inside of the cave, but there is no trace of human figures inside. Of course, the two are not giving up. They vow to go to the innermost part of the cave to see what is hidden in the cave. The two have been walking for more than an hour. If they return now, their exploration will take at least 3 hours. Wu Ai has urged them to return many times, but Li Zimu is still very unwilling because he has not been able to go to the innermost part. In the end, it was the female knight's faint words. After hearing this, Li Zimu began to walk back in dejection, like a mouse meeting a cat. By the time the two returned to the temporary camp, Gu Xiaoxi had already heated up the food twice. Gu Xiaoxi recently found that Li Zimu and Wu Xian were getting closer and closer. If she said, she was not angry at all. She would not believe it herself. After Li Zimu returned, he did not go to eat with everyone immediately, but ran to the gun box of the sniper rifle and took out the scope. Although she could not go to the innermost part, with this scope, she could also know what was in the innermost part. After taking out the scope, Li Zimu used it to look at the innermost part of the cave. And then she began to adjust the perspective parameters of the scope. After a while, the rocks in the cave could no longer hinder her sight. Without the obstruction of rocks, Li Zimu saw a fairly large space at the innermost part of the cave. In the center of the space was a large fiery red mushroom, which was about the height of a 2-story building and about the size of a rest pavilion. The other features of the mushroom were normal, except that this mushroom seemed to be dancing slightly. If you look closely at the cap of the mushroom, you will see a very symmetrical left-right sway. Although the amplitude is not very large, it can still be seen if you look closely. Li Zimu found this very novel. She didn't have any special ideas. She just handed the scope to Viper and said, "Brother Viper, take a look at this mushroom. Is it a little strange? If you can find that there is nothing wrong, we can also use it to make soup." This subconscious action made Wu Xian pale, because she knew that this scope could see through. Wu Xian hurriedly crossed her arms and squatted down, and her scream also made Li Zimu realize something. At this time, Viper had already taken the scope and was ready to look. But when he turned around to see what happened to Wu Xian, Li Zimu jumped directly on his back to block his turning back. Chapter 774 The Truth About Mushrooms. After the snake's movement to turn back was restricted, he did not force it, because no one reacted excessively to the shouting just now. This shows that nothing serious should have happened. And Li Zimu's prevention also made him guess that it might be a special situation of the girl. Not letting him turn back should be to avoid embarrassment. In this case, he simply stopped looking back. He picked up the adjusted scope and looked into the cave. After picking up the scope, he also saw the huge mushroom deep in the cave. He also felt that the dancing state was very novel. The most important thing is that he understood the real function of the scope, and he seemed to finally understand the meaning of Li Zimu stopping him from looking back. He put down the scope and handed it to Li Zimu. Then he nodded slightly as a greeting. Li Zimu now knew that Viper knew about the scope, and now the two men in the team should also know the special function of the scope. Although the mushroom looks a little weird, and it always makes people curious and want to approach it. But I think it will not pose a threat to us in the current situation. So everyone should not provoke it, and there should be no problem. After dinner, I will go collect some of the stone mushrooms on the body mark, so that we can understand its attack mechanism and avoid attacks from this kind of thing in the future. At this point, everyone was no longer so concerned about the big mushroom inside. But the curious people still borrowed a scope from Lizimu to look at the strange big mushroom. After dinner, everyone rested in the car, because there were unknown dangers in the cave. They did not plan to sleep in the tent, which would be detrimental to escape. Viper took out a special container to collect some of the stone-like mushrooms. He did not encounter any danger in the process, because he didn't have the research facilities in the RV. He couldn't do any effective research on the stone mushroom. But although he didn't have special equipment, he could imitate ordinary people to touch the mushrooms and see how they attack. He took out a silicone medical glove and soaked it in water at the same temperature as the human body for a while. When all this was done, he used a stick with a silicone glove to touch the stone mushroom. When he was about to touch the stone mushroom, the stone coat of the mushroom broke automatically. The stone-like outer shell broke apart, revealing the fiery red color inside. This color of mushroom is exactly the same as the huge mushroom at the innermost part of the cave. Except for the size and the lack of swinging, it is simply an identical replica. Until this time, the venomous snake did not find any attacking behavior of this mushroom. It was not until he broke some mushrooms with silicone gloves that things seemed to change. Although he did not find any abnormality under the naked eye, he seemed to feel that the mushroom might have launched an attack at the moment the mushroom broke. In order to prove whether his feeling was correct, he has been studying the attack mechanism of this stone mushroom for a period of time. With his unremitting efforts, he still discovered the attack method of this mushroom. Chapter 775: The Miserable House. After breakfast the next day, Viper shared his discovery with everyone. Last night, I conducted a simple experiment and discovered the attack method and trigger mechanism of this mushroom. The stone-like shell of this mushroom is just a self-protective coat, just like the mud shell of lungfish. When the body heat source of an animal approaches them within a certain range, their coat will immediately break and reveal the body inside, because the color of their body has a strong color contrast. Most creatures that discover them will be attracted. If animals eat these mushrooms, they will eject the glass-like substance in the cap into the skin of the creatures at the moment of being destroyed. This substance is the special spores of this mushroom. Once the spores enter the body of the creature, they will begin to destroy all the structures of the creature and change it into an environment suitable for their survival. Because there are no more experimental equipment, I can only understand this much at present. Lizima shivered after listening. No wonder the big mushroom in the cave jumped so much. It turned out to be trying to seduce other creatures to touch it. Others couldn't help laughing. You just want to stew it and drink its soup. Who would go back to provoke such a scary mushroom if there was nothing else to do? Lizima took out the scope and looked at the big mushroom that deserved to be beaten again. But after a night, she found that the position of the mushroom seemed to have changed. It seemed to be walking out from the depths of the cave. And it seemed that the other party had some ideas. Originally, they could wait until the RV was upgraded and then go back. But now it seems that if they wait here for more than 10 days, the mushroom may come out and eat them. There was no way. Everyone didn't know whether the mushroom had the same attack method as the small mushrooms outside. If the big one had a more powerful method of attack, they might not be able to handle it now. Just from the fact that the other party did not need the protection of the stone shell and could move freely. This guy should definitely not be a good person. The fuel of their 2 cars was not too abundant. If they went too far, returning would be a big problem. After a brief discussion, everyone decided to change a route to move to the location of the RV. Now that Xiantian was no longer coveting, it should not be difficult for them to find a hidden place. Since everyone had a plan, they stopped worrying and drove back after packing up their things. Because everyone didn't know Xuantian's route, they decided to take another route and let the drone navigate and avoid Xuantian's alliance team in the sky. The huge mushroom in the cave did not stop moving because Wu Ai and others left. Its color changed as it slowly moved towards the cave entrance. Because Wu Ai took a detour this time and needed to avoid Xuantian's team. So it took everyone 3 days to see the happy home gathering place again after walking for about a day. Although they saw the happy home, the gathering place at this time should be called the miserable home. This gathering place was obviously burned by a fire. And it was burned very thoroughly, as if someone deliberately set it on fire. Chapter 776. See the rat group again. Originally, everyone wanted to sneak into the gathering place to investigate the fragments of the protective suit and see if anyone here had seen the person wearing that suit. But now, nothing is left. The fire burned it all clean. Wu Ai patted the venomous snake standing in front of the dark ruins. The latter acted very free and easy, without any strange expression. There was no chance to refuel here. After everyone got in the car, they headed towards the location of the RV again. When everyone was almost close to the place where the RV was buried, everyone gave up using the vehicle. Firstly, it was to avoid unnecessary trouble. And secondly, ordinary vehicles like RVs were meaningless. After hiding their traces, they found an abandoned building. The building had been cut in half, but it still had 21 floors. Wu Ai and others climbed to the top of the building and set up a temporary camp. In the next 10 days, they witnessed a brutal fight between mutant creatures on the top of the building. Several creatures that looked like a mixture of tigers and deer ran wildly on the broken road in front of them, followed by a large number of wild dogs. Such a scene stirred up a large amount of dust on the road. It might be because their movement was so loud that it attracted another group of animals. When the wild dogs were about to catch up with the animal that looked like a combination of a tiger and a deer, many large birds, like eagles, flew over from the sky. After the three parties found each other, they calmed down temporarily, and an incredible scene was formed on this abandoned road. At both ends of the road were groups of wild dogs and eagles, and in the middle were more than a dozen animals that looked like a combination of tigers and deer. Although this combination of tigers and deer was tall and looked like it had a lot of meat, but it was obvious that neither side thought that this amount of food was enough. So neither side wanted to give up. In this confrontation, Wu Ai and his team also found some sneaky humans. The arrival of humans was still very secretive and cautious. It seemed that they also knew that they could not afford to offend any of them. Wu Ai found a total of 3 human teams, and the largest team was only 5 people. It seems that Happy House is really awesome in this area. In the end, the wild dogs could not withstand the temptation of the food in front of them, and they first charged at the food in the middle. Instantly, a scene of the 3 kingdoms fighting appeared in front of Wu Ai and others, with blood, limbs, and meat flying everywhere. At first, Wu Ai and others did not think that the fighting between these animals would have any impact on them. But later something happened that they had never expected. Rats. Overwhelming rats. They were like a black carpet, leaving only their color wherever they passed. These rats immediately reminded Wu Ai of some bad memories before. There was no need to describe the number of so many rats. And the 3 animals began to go their separate ways the moment they discovered the rats. But this time, the rats did not run from one direction to another like Wu Ai saw last time. This time, the rats started to move towards the battlefield from all directions. And the 2 without wings were doomed to die. But they would not let go of the eagles that could fly away. Chapter 777 Mushrooms Determine Fate. Seeing that there was no hope of escape, the 2 parties immediately stopped fighting and began to drag and bite the eagles that wanted to take off. Some individual wild dogs were lucky enough to bite the eagle's claws and were lifted up, and both sides were temporarily out of danger. As for how the eagle would deal with the wild dogs under its feet in the future, it could only be the result of the 2 of them discussing. In the end, only about half of the eagles escaped, and there was no possibility for any other creatures to escape. One of the 3 human forces was discovered because it saw the rats and panicked, and they all disappeared in the rats that looked like a black carpet. The other faction was lucky because they only suffered 2 casualties and successfully escaped from the siege of the rats by driving. But in the end, this faction only had 2 women and they had no means of transportation. So in order to survive, they could only flee to a higher place. Wu Ai and the others were in the highest building they could run to, so their only escape direction was here. The rats were not interested in such buildings. But now that they had a target, it was a different story. Li Zima could easily kill the 2 people who came with a sniper rifle, but she still had some resistance to such killing. Wu Ai would not force her to do something she did not like, so he had to make early plans for the danger that would come later. If the 2 women below are caught before they run to the 15th floor, then we do not need to rescue them. The rats should retreat in that case, and our position will not be exposed. But if they run past the 15th floor and are not caught, then it proves that they can run to us. So we must stop them before a large number of rats come in. I don't have any good suggestions now. There should be no good way except to delay them by force with the weapons in our hands. After Wu Ai finished speaking, everyone fell silent. Wu Ai was using this method to let everyone make a decision. to decide whether to put everyone's lives in danger because of these two unrelated people. Li Zimu also began to hesitate. If she put everyone in danger because of her saintly complex, she would not forgive herself. Just when she was about to say to use a sniper rifle to get rid of the two people, Viper suddenly said, "Captain, if the mushrooms in the cave before have an effect on creatures, I think these rats should also be applicable. When the rats die in large numbers, maybe they will not continue to move forward. Judging from the situation outside just now, at least they have a certain degree of intelligence. If the mushrooms have no effect, I will be the one to snipe the two people." Everyone immediately agreed to the proposal of the venomous snake, because they had little time left. So they had to act quickly. As soon as he said it, the venomous snake took most of the mushrooms used for experimental research to the stairs on the 15th floor and began to arrange them. The place where he arranged the mushrooms was not the nearest staircase that the two women might take, but the staircase on the other side of the floor. When the women passed this staircase, the venomous snake would directly smash the stairs here, so that if the mice wanted to catch up with the women, they had to take the stairs on the other side with mushrooms. Chapter 778. Why me again? The venomous snake was lying in ambush near the 15th staircase. He needed to confirm that the two women could run up to the 15th floor before blowing up this staircase. Looking down from here, the dark swarm of rats can also give people a strong sense of oppression. The two women ran much faster than ordinary people, which was the main reason why they were not eaten by rats for the time being. When the two women ran around the corner of the stairs and saw the venomous snake, they finally paused in surprise. But they only paused for a moment, and then the two continued to run upwards. Viper no longer had a good impression of the two women. They did not tell him about the rat swarm behind him. This behavior was clearly to let Viper use his body to temporarily delay the rat swarm behind him. Although one person's weight may not have much delay value, the two women should be very happy to live even one more second. Viper sneered and took out two high explosive grenades, then pulled the safety and threw them at the stairs. With two loud bangs, the staircase on the 15th floor was directly blown away. The rats also paid the price of some of their kind because of the explosion, but their terrifying number would not change qualitatively because of the death of some of them. The rats immediately ran to the other side of the stairs that led to the upper floor, and the venomous snake also took the opportunity to quickly return to the temporary camp on the top floor. Li Zimu used the scope to see everything that happened just now, and she also related to everyone in real time. Facing the two women she wanted to rescue just now, she felt that the idea of saving them was really too naive. The two women quickly ran to the temporary camp of Wu Ai and others, and soon after, the venomous snake also successfully returned. The two women looked at the group of people dressed in the same way, and they immediately realized that their behavior just now must have offended these people. Li Zimu was observing the situation over there, so she would not speak until she got the news whether the mice came up or not. Wu Ai and the others did not pay attention to the two women opposite. When the group of mice successfully found another passage and wanted to go up, they suddenly saw those mushrooms and stopped moving. It seems that this group of mice should have seen this kind of mushrooms, and it is possible that this kind of mushrooms were also encountered by the group of mice when digging holes. Since the mice knew the horror of mushrooms, they retreated like a tide. Seeing this situation, Li Zimu nodded happily to signal Wu Ai, and he, who had known the secret code for a long time, also understood that the mice did not come up. Wu Ai walked out of the team and stood not far from the two women. You should all be smart people, so I don't want to say anything meaningless. Leave us something in exchange, and we will let you go. If you don't have something that satisfies us, then you must leave your life to do things for us. Although Wu Ai's words sounded cold, if we consider the overall situation, he is a kind person for saying so. The older of the two women obviously understood this, but the younger one didn't. So when Wu Ai finished speaking, she took out the pistol on her waist and fired 3 shots at Wu Ai. Chapter 779. Mysterious Force. Wu Ai looked at the place where the 3 bullets had hit with great depression. He was shot again. He had just been shot once not long ago, and now he had been shot 3 times. It seems that he still has room for improvement and development in this area. Although his heart was already full of rage, he would not forgive these 2 women so easily. So that's the case. It seems that there is no need for a deal. I'll just do it. Wu Ai took the submachine gun handed over by the team member behind him, and then turned on the safety to kill the 2 women in front of him. The woman who fired the gun was completely petrified on the spot. She had no idea why the other party was fine after being shot. Although I heard that some gathering places have successfully developed a bulletproof clothing, it doesn't seem to be so strong. Looking at her companions who were still in a daze, and the cold-blooded man in black who was about to shoot them, the older woman finally felt a little tired. Please wait a moment. I can solve the problem between us. I think this gentleman should have time, and don't mind letting us live a little longer. The woman who spoke had a nice voice, and the tone gave people a feeling that could make people feel at ease. Wu Ai did not continue to prepare to shoot. He put down his submachine gun and changed his posture to hold the gun and listen attentively. The woman who had been in a trance just now also came back to her senses. When she found that the other party started to raise the gun and wanted to shoot, she said that she was not panicking, which was really bragging. It was already quite remarkable to be able to stand without shaking. If you are not afraid, it would be a bit too fake. Then her companion used a sentence to make the other party give up the idea of continuing to shoot. And she also breathed a sigh of relief. Although we don't have any chips to exchange with you adults now, I have a piece of information that can be used as a chip to try. If you think this information can be used as a bargaining chip, please let us leave after listening to the news. Wu Ai also felt that such information could not have any real value. After all, the coldness of the two people had been shown to Viper. Now Wu Ai would not believe what they said, so he wanted to listen first. You can try, but if you can't satisfy us, then you will have to accept our rule for the rest of your life. The women did not make any more suggestions or protest again, which meant that they completely accepted Wu Ai's proposal. We discovered a secret force in the previous search for supplies. Their technology may be comparable to Changsheng Company in our opinion, but they may not be strong enough to protect their achievements. So they hid underground for development. I think such information will be very valuable no matter which force it is sold to. So are you satisfied with our information? After hearing this, Wu Ai hadn't spoken yet, but Gu Siusi spoke first. In fact, we have found more than 700 such forces. If you need them, I can give them to you for free. Wu Ai felt that such sarcasm was quite appropriate. Information transactions cannot be completed in this way. Chapter 780 Xiaoyang and Xiaoyu. Of course, the two women are not fools. How could they not hear such blatant sarcasm? It's not that our information is wrong, but if you don't let us go after we tell you the details, we can't resist you. Unless you can make some guarantees that make us feel at ease, then we can tell you the information. Wu Ai felt that the woman who was smart just now was not smart now. Although the information might be valuable, it was not necessary for Wu Ai. The two women threatened him with this, and they really met their match. We don't want the information. Just take it with you. It's not impossible that the people down there think it's valuable, and then spend money to buy your information, so that you can enjoy wealth and glory down there. Wu Ai didn't hesitate anymore. He raised the submachine gun in his hand, and was about to pull the trigger. Wait a minute. Some of those people are wearing similar clothes to you, so I think you may know each other. This sentence successfully saved the lives of the two of them. After hearing it, Wu Ai immediately thought that Lu Feng and his men must have established another gathering place underground. It seems that this woman had seen this long ago, so she didn't tell the information directly. Since you know that we may be together, you can't leave for the time being. As long as you lead us to find the location of the underground force, we will study the issue of whether you two should stay or go. Although there is no danger to your life temporarily, it is the real life and death decision after finding the underground force. These things are what Wu Ai and others experienced during the time when they were waiting for the RV to upgrade. When Wu Xian received the information that the RV was successfully upgraded, she immediately drove the RV out of the ruins. The loud noise frightened the two women, and they sat on the ground. Wu Ai was also startled. Fortunately, he was informed in advance and prepared. Seeing a motorhome that looked almost the same as the original one crashing out, Wu Ai was not very surprised by the upgraded motorhome. There was basically no big change in appearance, and Wu Ai didn't have a good premonition of what the inside would look like. The two women were very surprised by the appearance of the motorhome. They showed that they were not only shocked by the appearance of this high-tech vehicle. There was a deep desire and ownership of the motorhome in the eyes of both of them. In this world where everything is uncertain, having such a mobile shelter is a real paradise. Wu Ai was not afraid that they had any bad intentions towards the RV, because he had absolute control over the RV. As long as they entered the RV, it would be a place stronger than a prison cell. I don't know your names yet. You too. My RV requires access permission, so I must know your names. If the name is not convenient, just tell me a nickname or a pet name. I will call you by the name you told me in the RV in the future. The two women looked at each other, a little confused about the question of the man in front of them asking about the need for permission to enter the RV. But they answered their names very straightforwardly. My name is Xiao Yang. And that is my sister, Xiao Yu. Chapter 781 Carriage Space. Wu Ai didn't want to pay attention to these two people for the time being. Now everyone was eager to know what changes would happen to the RV after the upgrade. Wu Ai brought the Xiao sisters to the space where he quickly entered, next to the villa where he lived. Wu Ai pointed to the villas and said, "This house will belong to you sisters from now on. Everything inside is very comprehensive. But you can't leave this house. As for your future fate, I will discuss it with you when I have time." Wu Ai let them enter the villa. And then he set the permissions for the villa. Such a beautiful cell was completed. After completing this task, he should go back and witness the changes after the RV upgrade with everyone. Back to the RV compartment space. It has undergone earth-shaking changes. The size of the room used in the original RV compartment was still determined by the size of the RV compartment. But now, he saw an endless grassland. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Wu Xian was surrounded by all the team members, and they were all asking Wu Xian about the situation after the RV upgrade. Wu Ai walked slowly to a place not far from the group, and then he coughed softly to show that he had come here. The cough interrupted everyone's discussion at the right time, and Wu Xian's eyes were full of crescents when she smiled. It seems that everyone is very satisfied with her changes in the carriage, so she is very proud of it now. Okay, tell us what is going on in the carriage quickly. We need to set off after understanding the general situation. Wu Ai's words were also recognized by everyone. Everyone also wanted to know the changes. But Wu Xian was unwilling to say it. Are you waiting for the captain to come and talk together? Otherwise, I will have to say it again later. It turns out that the reason why I didn't say it just now was because I was afraid of saying it again. It seems that this artificial intelligence robot is becoming more and more like a real human. I found a space used to store Gu Xiaoxi's body before, but now there is nothing in it. Based on the belief that waste is shameful, I reformatted that space and used it in the carriage. It was also very difficult during this period. I won't go into details. You just enjoy the results. The scenery in this carriage can be changed at any time according to different requirements. And the actual size of the space is the same as everyone's exclusive space. The reason why people seem to have an endless sense of space is just some visual projection. Not real. The biggest effect of this space is that you can use your mind to gather what you want. In layman's terms, you are a magician here. As long as you meet the requirements of the RV's authority, you can create a future here. After speaking, Wu Xian demonstrated it on the spot. She pointed at the void, and then a group of reddish-brown horses appeared in front of everyone. The horses that appeared gave people a very real feeling. No matter from which angle, no flaws could be found in the horses. Li Zimu touched the horse's mane, and then poked the horse's skin and muscles. Finally, she was finally conquered by this magical thing, and she turned around and shouted loudly to Wu Ai, "Boss, please accept my knees and grant me such authority." Chapter 782, The Chariot Form of the RV. To be honest, Wu Ai also felt that this function was too amazing, and it was a bit of a waste to put it in the space of the car. But now the RV has been upgraded, and if it is changed again, it will cost extra. And he thought about it carefully again. If such a function is given to everyone to use, it will. Maybe something incredible will happen. Xiao Mu, you don't have to rush to kneel down to me. I won't take that thing. Just now. After careful consideration, I think this authority should only be used by Wu Xian. And my own authority will be directly restricted. If you have any needs in the future, tell Wu Xian. If she thinks it is necessary, she can help you. But Wu Xian, your help is premised. It must have actual meaning and value. If you use this authority to do something you shouldn't do, then I will punish you directly, and it will be very severe. After Wu Ai said these words, the eyes of those who had ideas were all cast on Wu Xian, and the burning degree of their eyes almost roasted her directly. After saying this, Wu Ai immediately interrupted the girls, who were already flattering. And he said directly to Wu Xian, "What about the weapon system? Is the RV's weapon system still on the second floor?" Wu Ai had to interrupt the others forcefully, as some people's behavior was already too much for him to bear. Li Zimu also put away her hands that were helping Wu Xian to massage her legs, as she was most concerned about weapons. In the past, the attack part of the RV was on the second floor, which not only greatly reduced the efficiency of the attack, but also made it difficult to be specific in combat. So I made a separate transformation system for the RV's combat. And the RV that successfully completed the transformation became a professional combat unit. In order to let everyone understand what she said intuitively, she directly changed the scene that was just an endless prairie. Now everyone is in a place that looks like a professional battle command room, with a three-dimensional holographic display projection in front of them. Behind the projection are 6 large display screens, which show the appearance of the transformed RV from different angles. The transformed RV is more like a large field tank, but the tank uses tracks as a moving medium, while the transformed RV still maintains a suspended state. Sister Xian, I think the design of your chariot is really cool, but how to solve the recoil problem without grounding? Although the recoil of the original RV's electromagnetic gun is not too large, I also designed the gun body to offset the recoil, but I don't see any similar design for this tank now, so we won't be blown away after firing. Li Zimu was very sincere in answering this question, and now she doesn't dare to offend the future general manager. In fact, I have considered the recoil problem of this tank, because I have improved the efficiency of the electromagnetic gun again, so the recoil problem must be solved. The turret will offset the recoil at the moment of firing, and the remaining recoil will be completed by the reaction force injection system of the RV. It can calculate the recoil that needs to be offset very accurately, and then achieve the purpose of offsetting by quickly ejecting the corresponding force gas. Chapter 783, Searching for the Mysterious Power. After getting the answer she wanted, Li Zimu stopped talking. She began to listen to Wu Xian's description of the function of the tank. The power of the electromagnetic gun has been mentioned before. It has been increased to about 5 times the original efficiency. The tank also provides double-sided heavy machine gun attack positions, which are prepared to deal with some ordinary enemies. There is also a special position on the top of the tank for Li Zimu's sniper rifle to exert its power. There is an interface for energy that can be used directly, so there is no need to change the battery back and forth. Li Zimu was of course very happy to hear this. The dream of shooting without batteries was finally realized. The tank is also equipped with a combat fire control radar, a small anti-missile system, and an automatic counterattack system. These can only deal with relatively close combat units, and the requirements for the warhead are not high. They are just interception weapons, a medium-sized weapon-grade laser launcher, a small mobile mine layer, and Wu Xian wanted to continue talking, but Wu Ai felt that this was enough. She would be asked to give a detailed introduction in the actual combat later. The types of weapons Wu Xian just mentioned were much stronger than the previous RV. Next, Wu Ai did not allow him to listen to the final form and combat power of the Gundam, so he directly started to ask about the Gundam. Gundam? Of course, it has been modified, but due to energy issues, there are not many weapon systems. When the RV uses the antimatter engine in the future, that will be the best time to modify the Gundam. Wu Ai doesn't want to hear other things now. He just wants to know about the Gundam. Wu Xian looked at Wu Ai, whose eyes were about to spit fire, and she wiped her cold sweat and began to talk. She was a little careless just now, but fortunately, she found the problem in time. In addition to the electromagnetic cannon and electromagnetic light knife, the main weapons of the Gundam, I also equipped it with a shield. The shield has a very strong defensive ability, and this shield can also be used as a weapon. When the shield is separated, it can be used as 2 metal knives. Although the effect is not as powerful as the electromagnetic light knife, it is still powerful as long as it is used in the right occasion. The rest are some auxiliary weapons, such as 2 heavy machine guns, 3-in-1 guided missiles on the body, and 6 high-voltage ejection dischargers. These are basically the saturation of energy. If there are other weapons, they will lose their meaning due to lack of energy supply. Although Wu Ai thinks that the upgrade of Gundam should be good, it is not as powerful as he imagined. For example, the name of the metal fatigue ray has not been heard, and it is estimated that it is not included in the design of the weapon. Anyway, the RV has been upgraded, and there is no chance to upgrade it again. This RV has not been baptized by war, so the only way to test whether the RV is upgraded is to use war. After the RV started, Wu Xian directly changed the space of the RV to be almost the same as before. After that, Wu Ai asked Xiao Yang and Xiao Yu to come and point out the location of the mysterious force, because Wu Ai did not want to expose their appearance at present. Wu Xian specially gathered a room and asked them to tell the approximate location of the mysterious force there. After explaining all this, Wu Ai asked them to return to their house. Chapter 784 Consciousnesses. Now that Wu Xian exists, driving the RV is no longer something that needs to be done manually. In this regard, the RV's intelligent system is still very convenient. The RV started, and the holographic camouflage system that everyone had been looking forward to was turned on. The RV started on the road according to the location pointed out by the Shao sisters. This time, Wu Xian turned the space of the RV into a beach with a blue sea. The girls couldn't control it when they saw this. For swimsuits, just go to Wu Xian. As long as you can tell her the style that she can understand, then any swimsuit is not a problem. In the end times, not to mention going to the beach to play, even taking a bath is an extremely luxurious thing. If they didn't have Wu Ai's RV, the smell on their bodies would not be very pleasant. Looking at everyone except him going into the sea to play in the water, Wu Ai also showed a relaxed smile. I don't know when Wu Xian came to his side, stretched out her hand and handed him a glass of cold drink. She smiled playfully and said, "This drink is not a gathering. It is a real thing. Anything that is gathered in this space will not be taken out of this space. So some things must be used here. The people in the sea are not aware of this situation yet. If I give them the swimsuits I showed them." He. Wu Ai, who had just taken a sip of the drink, was frightened by her words and choked. The violent coughing could not cover up what he had just thought of. Wu Xian looked at him and laughed so hard that she was shaking with laughter. Some parts of her body also swayed with her movements. Wu Ai looked at Wu Xian, who had just played a prank, with a reproachful look and stopped looking at her. Girls in swimsuits are indeed born fairies. Seeing that Wu Ai did not dare to look at her, Wu Xian was even more proud. In order to win back a game, Wu Ai tried his best to calm himself. And then he said with interest, "Your personality now is completely different from the one I first knew. I don't think you changed it on purpose. Shouldn't you tell me about this?" Wu Xian didn't expect him to ask this question suddenly, and she lost her smiling expression in an instant. "Didn't I say that my learning program optimized my personality after browsing all the information in your RV? So you think I am more and more like a human being?" Wu Ai shook her head and said with a smile, "You have been in your world for so long. It is impossible that you don't know the situation of humans at all. I think some things are just out of curiosity, and it doesn't matter if you don't tell me." Wu Ai said this, which made Wu Xian not know how to answer. As an intelligent robot, she was not used to such skills. "In fact, you don't have to say it like this. This matter is not a secret. You will know it in the future. It's just that I haven't thought about how to tell you now. Since you asked it now, I will tell you openly. My system has a small problem because of your intervention, and another consciousness has been generated in the program. The original consciousness just wanted to find out the ultimate question of her life experience, and the other consciousness just wanted to go on an adventure with you." Chapter 785 Alliance Main City. Wu Ai nodded, and then said lightly, "You have to know that I am the controller of this RV, so I am capable of knowing everything in the RV. Of course, I will not infringe on everyone's privacy, but apart from these, I can basically understand everything. After the RV is upgraded, it will give an overview of the upgrade changes and descriptions. I saw another body you created in it. Is that body another consciousness? What is the situation between you now?" Wu Xian smiled helplessly and said, "Of course, that body is another consciousness. We don't need to communicate to understand each other's thoughts. Simply put, I only care about your affairs, and she only cares about finding clues to her life experience. She doesn't like to see you, so she just stays where she belongs." Li Zima hit an inflatable beach ball in the sea. Wu Ai stood up and walked over to pick it up, and then he hit it back hard. "In fact, each of you should have your own freedom, so I support most of what you want to do. Since you exist, just enjoy it well. Don't care too much about other people's eyes. In fact, I should be like this, and I have no position to enlighten you here." After saying that, Wu Ai took off his clothes and ran to the sea, while Wu Xian smiled and said to the air, just like he said just now, "We don't have to force each other to do anything now. We are all independent individuals. I won't go with you." After a painful journey, Xiantian finally returned to the main city of the Alliance. The main city of the Alliance seems to have a high technological content. There are also suspended vehicles here, and there are many transportation facilities, like pipelines in the sky, in a very tall tower-like building. This is the private residential territory of the Alliance leader and his family. in a large and luxurious conference room. The leader and all his wives and children also attended the meeting. The most honorable seat in the meeting was the old leader. And the first seat on his left was not his children, but a strange man with good looks. Let me introduce you to everyone. This is Tang San, the city lord of Baiyun Continent. And the one next to him is Miss Wanner, the city lord's wife. The reason why I recovered so quickly is entirely because of Tang San's righteousness. So in the Alliance City, he is the first person under me. Originally, the leader's sudden summons had already made everyone very curious, and they were even more surprised to see that the leader, who was lying sickly in bed before, seemed to have fully recovered. Now he seems to want to hand over the Alliance's main city to a stranger. How can his children accept this? Even if all his children accept it, his wives will not give up. The eldest son of the Alliance leader, who had the highest voice for the throne, just frowned and did not speak, while the second son beside him muttered indignantly, "Even if you say so, the other alliances may not agree. We are an alliance, not a unified regime." Chapter 786. The leader is dead? Although Tang San also heard the whisper, he did not react at all, as if he really did not hear it. The other children of the leader also discussed with each other below. After all, such a thing is not something that their family can control. After discussing for about 5 minutes, the leader began to interrupt the discussion of all the children. "I will no longer manage the entire Alliance City in the future. You can discuss the rest with City Lord Tang San." After saying that, he led his people to leave the location and return to his residence. When his figure completely disappeared, these children also revealed their fox tails. I dare not say anything. This Alliance City has always belonged to our Wang family. Now an outsider who is not from our family wants to take advantage of it. I am the first one to disagree, because the old leader has many children. Tang San did not know how many sons the person who spoke was, so he just smiled kindly and did not answer. After the first one spoke, there would be a second one, and then most of the children spoke out their disagreement. But 2 of them did not speak. They kept silent all the time. Tang San saw that the time was almost up. He coughed a few times and said, "I know how everyone feels now, but the old leader has clearly stated his order. Even if I don't want to accept it, it's impossible now, and I can't disobey his order. So I will give everyone 3 days to think about it. If anyone has made up their mind, they can still come to me at any time. You don't have to dream about it. Just pack up and get out." Leaving this sentence, a man stood up and left angrily. After that, the other children also left their harsh words and left in a cool manner. After all those who wanted to leave left, there were only 4 people left here. Tang San and his wife Wanner, the eldest son of the leader, and a child who was only about 10 years old. These 2 people were the children of the 2 leaders, who had never spoken to each other from beginning to end. Tang San also found it very interesting that 2 of them stayed. The child was the first to speak. He didn't seem to be that cunning. "I know things may be getting out of control, and I don't care about these things. If possible, I will give up any power related to the Alliance City. I just hope that when I leave, I can leave here alive with my mother. This is my only request." Tang San was a little surprised. He saw that this child was not simple. He was far from being as ignorant as he seemed at first glance. "I can agree to your request. I see that you have completely understood it. Since you want to live at the cost of giving up all your power, I will not do anything bad to you." The child bowed and left directly. "And the remaining 3 people will conduct the final negotiations. I know that you have great power, and even the dead can be disguised so similar. But you also know that even if the person you find looks exactly like the leader, there are some things you don't know." Chapter 787. A gathering place. Tang San knew that such a thing could not be concealed for a long time, so his plan seemed a little hasty. But there was no way. The longer the time, the easier it would be to make mistakes. "I don't fully understand what you mean. Please tell me your opinion in detail." Tang San finally became interested in the eldest son of the leader. How could someone with the same DNA as the original leader be discovered in such a short time? "Since you want to hear it, then I will tell you. Tell me why I discovered that you were impersonating the old leader. You should know that the interests of such a large family are intertwined. To put it inappropriately, the children of these old leaders are like independent forces. Every time the old leader had to meet his children, he would subconsciously despise everyone, including me. But I didn't notice this during this meeting, and what he said was too simple and crude, without a convincing reason. What Tang San didn't expect was that only 2 people found out that their father had been replaced. And one of them had the greatest ambition. What do you want to say after saying so much? Expose us? Then lead the other children and subordinates of the leader to rebel, and take the position of leader yourself? The leader's eldest son shook his head and chuckled. Your strength has been so terrifying that I don't think any force can compete with you. Even if I defeat you as you said just now, I may not be able to take the position of leader. Those people will not allow it. But now it's different. As long as we cooperate, I can 100% take this position. Tang San nodded and said, You are very smart. Tell me what you think, and I'll see if there is anyone willing to cooperate. Let me become the only leader of the Alliance City. And then I can agree to any of your requests. It's that simple. Tang San narrowed his eyes. He had done such things before. It seems that this person's ambition is really too big. But only such a person can be easily controlled. You just wiped out all your brothers and sisters with such a light sentence. I'm afraid you will have bad intentions towards me in the future. You don't need to test me anymore. People like you are like suicide if I have the intention of not returning. So you don't want to worry at all. Tang San stood up and shook hands with the eldest son of the leader with a smile. Then he asked with some interest, I don't know what your name is. After talking for so long, you are the only one worth remembering your name. Wang Yue. It's just a very ordinary name. Tang San nodded and left. When he reached the door, he suddenly stopped and said, Your name is not ordinary at all. And it will be even more extraordinary in the future. Looking at the two people disappearing, Wang Yue's smile gradually disappeared from his face. After 10 days, Wu Ai and others finally approached the scope of a power. However, whether it was the distance of this gathering place or the buildings it revealed, Wu Ai and others believed that this should not be the location of the so-called mysterious power. I don't know why the two women of the Shao family brought them here. Chapter 788 There is someone in the room. Wu Ai brought the two women of the Shao family out of the patrol range of this gathering place. Although they were very reluctant, they had to come out. Looking at the familiar scenery in the distance, the two also realized that they were there now. This is your last chance. If you lie again this time, I will not give you any more chances. Wu Ai said coldly with a gun. Xiaoyang knew that the other party might be serious this time. So she said with some fear, We were really afraid that you would not let us go before. So we lied. But please believe that the location of the mysterious force is indeed under this gathering place. But I found that they did not tell the truth in the process. What Xiaoyang said next was somewhat logical. But Wu Ai still didn't believe her 100%. It turned out that the two of them were not in this gathering place, but were captured by the people in this gathering place. In order to escape from here, the two of them wanted to dig a tunnel to escape. But it was a coincidence that the two of them heard unusual sounds underground while digging the tunnel. So they discovered that there was a force underneath. Wu Ai had to send someone in to confirm this news, because the place where they were originally detained was near the center of the gathering place, where there would be many patrol personnel, and drones could not enter the room. Some small detectors can do this job. But it is obvious that if Wu Ai does this, he will not know the ultimate purpose of the two women. Finally, the team decided to send 4 people and the Shao sisters into the gathering place. If there is no problem inside, they will study the next step. In this way, Wu Ai took the 2 women and quietly passed through the patrol personnel's inspection and entered the gathering place under the cover of night. The Shao sisters were also very surprised that Wu Ai and others could accurately avoid the patrol members. The drone in the sky has seen this place completely, and it is not easy for them to be discovered. Several people quietly moved towards the room Xiaoyang mentioned. When they reached the door, Wu Ai lay on the door and did not hear anyone talking. Just as he quietly pushed the door, the light inside shone directly. There were people inside, and there were quite a few of them. Such an obvious opening of the door was of course discovered by the people inside. The person at the door directly pulled open the door panel that had been pushed open a crack. And then Wu Ai also saw the situation inside clearly through the light. There were about 30 people sitting inside. They might be doing some rituals about faith. So these people did not make any sound just now. If Wu Ai had used some tools, he might not have been discovered. But he still wanted to go in because he heard no sound because of empiricism. The most important thing is that if this is a place for 2 women, there should be no one inside. They had said before that only the 2 of them were imprisoned here. The current situation is very embarrassing. It is definitely impossible to go in. So the only way left is to retreat temporarily. Wu Ai hurriedly closed the door again, and then loudly ordered the Viper, who followed him, to shoot and kill the 2 sisters of the Shao family. Chapter 789. Start the War. Start the War. The Xiao sister started running out the moment Wu Ai opened the door. And the scene after the door was opened made everyone forget about the two people for a while. After hearing this, Xiao Yang jumped directly in front of Xiao Yu. And the venomous snake's automatic attack hit Xiao Yu's back. Although the time was very short, the people in the room had already started using gene capsules. If they couldn't leave quickly, then fighting would be inevitable. It was no longer possible to go over to check whether the two were shot dead. But Xiao Yu should not survive. Wu Ai and the others contacted the RV and started to flee. A fastest energy transformer, who could control electrical energy, came out of the room. Fortunately, their protective suits were insulated, so they avoided being knocked down. But if the opponent had more powerful electrical energy, their protective suits would not be good enough. The electrical transformer did not stop the invader, which surprised some people behind him. In the past, as long as he took action, basically no one could escape under his interception. In order to pick up Wu Ai and others as soon as possible, the RV directly smashed the gate of the gathering place and rushed in. The RV arrived at the side of several people, opened the door quickly, and left directly without any hesitation. After receiving the people, the RV chose to leave in another direction. Because after the RV entered the gate, the patrol personnel and vehicles outside also returned. And there should be strong defense capabilities there. Now Wu Ai is still trying not to expose the existence of the RV, while being targeted by some trial teams. After knocking open the gate of the gathering place on the other side, the RV quickly began to flee. Just when Wu Ai and others fled a certain distance and activated the holographic camouflage and thought they were safe, a missile exploded on the road they had just passed. Wu Xian. What's going on? How could they catch up so quickly? And what was the attack just now? Was it a missile? Because of Wu Xian's control, the RV's small radar detected the missile at close range, which is why they were able to dodge the missile. According to all the information just now, the team with such strength should be a trial team, and only they can have such reaction and speed. We have been locked by the opponent's radar now, and it should be difficult to escape. If we don't kill the opponent, it may attract more alliance teams. Wu Ai was also very angry after hearing such a report. He had been patient for so long, but was still discovered by the trial team. If the other party had no other allies, it would be fine. If there were allies, perhaps their situation would have been sent out now. Thinking of this, Wu Ai felt ruthless. Since several people had been discovered, there was no need to estimate anything. God had treated them like this, so they didn't need to keep a low profile anymore. Wu Xian activated the chariot mode. Let's try to see if the upgraded RV can withstand the test. With a dazzling white light, a tank-like chariot appeared at the original RV's location a few seconds later. Hurry up and report the situation here. We have encountered a trial team, and the opponent's strength should be very strong. Request quick support from headquarters. Chapter 790. Wu Ai's transformation. After Wu Ai had the RV transformed, he began to prepare for the attack. He first used the two heavy machine guns in the chariot form to attack the aircraft in the sky. As the bullets spewed out like tongues of fire, sparks were visible in the sky, and the sound of bullets hitting metal surfaces was endless. Ordinary bullets did not seem to have much damage to the trial team, so the most powerful electromagnetic cannon of the chariot began to charge just now. The aircraft in the sky also discovered the energy gathering at the muzzle of the chariot, and the pilots with rich driving experience immediately judged that this was an attack that was enough to destroy their aircraft. The aircraft began to pull up and roll to slow down without hesitation. They used this method to avoid the attack angle of the tank. However, Wu Ai did not think of using this attack method to directly destroy the opponent, because although this straight-line attack method that requires charging is powerful, it is easy for the opponent to discover and evade it in advance. The charging of the electromagnetic gun is just to make the opponent's aircraft make a quick evasive action, and the real attack to intercept the aircraft in the sky is a weapon-level laser weapon. Wu Xian easily calculated the opponent's escape speed and path angle. As a red light was emitted, the opponent's aircraft indeed began to shake irregularly. It was unknown where the lasers hit, but the aircraft slowed down and began to deviate from the planned route. The electromagnetic cannon had already been fired, and Wu Ai certainly could not miss this good opportunity. As a dazzling light burst out, a brilliant firework appeared in the sky. The aircraft was directly destroyed, and it was a very thorough one. If someone wanted to collect the corpses, his workload might not be completed by several people. The shooting down of this aircraft also changed Wu Ai's state of mind. Hiding blindly would not allow them to survive well in this world. Anyway, things have already come to this. After a brief discussion with everyone, Wu Ai took the chariot back along the original route. He needed to officially join the fight of the trial team. Not long after, the chariot returned to the gathering place again. And at this time, the gathering place already had a bleak taste. The humans in this world are preparing together with the trial team. Their current goal should be Wu Ai and the RV who have returned. Without any extra words, the electromagnetic cannon and laser weapons began to attack directly. And Li Zimu also used her special sniper rifle to search for the captain of the trial team. Only the captain who was eliminated would be considered to be eliminated from this trial team. The battle was extremely fierce. Too many transformed warriors besieged Wu Ai's RV. It was inevitable that the RV would be damaged. All the warriors who could use gene capsules had been lured to use them. The next thing was to avoid these people and consume all their transformation time. Wu Ai, who transformed into a complete version of Gundam for the first time, had a new feeling. As if he and the Gundam were one body. And there was no strange feeling in controlling it. The battle was doomed at the beginning. Only a few transformed warriors who could fly came into contact with the complete version of Gundam. The other transformed warriors could only worry on the ground. While Wu Ai in the sky only needed to destroy the aircraft of the trial team that had already taken off. The strength of this trial team was not strong. And they only had 3 aircraft in total. 1 aircraft was killed by the RV in the tank form before. And the 2 aircraft in the sky were simply not worth mentioning in front of the complete version of Gundam. Li Zimu used a sniper rifle to find the captain, who was furious in one of the aircrafts. And he was frowning at the 2 subordinates in front of him. Although he couldn't hear what they were saying. Li Zimu judged the identity of the other party from such an atmosphere and state. After replacing a special armor-piercing bullet, she aimed at the opponent's chest and pulled the trigger directly. The bullet began to accelerate after leaving the barrel. And it was because of the design of this bullet that it could still leave the barrel like this. When it hit the outer metal of the aircraft, the speed of the bullet was greatly reduced. But this point was taken into consideration when the bullet was designed. So the bullet was assembled in 3 parts. The captain of the trial team was finally hit in the heart by the bullet. And then everyone in Wu Ai's team was reminded of the prompt sound of killing the trial team. The opponent's team members in the aircraft wanted to leave immediately after they found that something was wrong. But the next moment they and their aircraft disappeared instantly. The failed team will not leave anything in this world. So this is their fate. After a while, the transformed warriors below began to emit white mist because of time. There was no reason to hold back at this time. Wu Ai made the Gundam transform back into a tank form again. He controlled the machine gun on the tank and began to shoot at these people. Although other team members felt that Wu Ai's behavior was a little inappropriate. War would not change because of a person's beliefs and preferences. After eliminating all the people in the gathering place, Wu Ai's expression seemed to have changed a little. Wu Ai ordered Wu Xian to directly turn on the active radar of the RV, so that they could use the radar to detect various approaching objects around. Wu Ai did not discuss this order with everyone. It was completely his own will. This situation has exceeded everyone's understanding of him. And Wu Ai seems to have undergone some special changes. After the active radar was turned on, it immediately sent a message of a fleeing light spot. Through the information reflected by the radar, it was analyzed that this should be a human. Wu Ai ordered the chariot to move quickly towards this light spot. He needed to see whether this person was water. The high-power lighting equipment of the tank made it impossible for the fleeing person to hide. And Wu Ai soon saw who this person was. Xiaoyang, the woman who used her sister as a bullet to escape. Wu Ai jumped out of the tank, holding a submachine gun in his hand, and walked directly in front of the woman. He opened the mask of the combat helmet on his head. And Xiaoyang looked at the man in black against the light. Only his eyes were unusually bright red. We meet again. This time, I will not give you any chance to escape or talk. After saying that, Wu Ai raised the submachine gun in his hand and pulled the trigger directly. Chapter 791 Who is the Ruler? As the gunshot sounded, the bullets tilted a magazine directly, and the expected appearance of being beaten into a hornet's nest did not appear. A layer of faint white light appeared on Xiaoyang's body, which blocked all the damage from the bullets. Wu Ai's pupils shrank directly. Such a situation is impossible for humans in this world. Even the gene capsule probably wouldn't have such an ability. Not to mention that Xiaoyang also made a resigned expression. However, the development of the matter was unexpected by both of them. So they began to stare at each other after the gunshot stopped. Seeing that he failed to kill the other party, Wu Ai felt a nameless anger in his heart. There was a voice in his heart telling him that he could only vent his anger after successfully killing the woman in front of him. He pulled out the dagger he was carrying, and then jumped over and stabbed the other party's heart. The white light appeared as usual, blocking the dagger's tip from entering further. Wu Ai was now a little angry and lost himself. And he couldn't imagine why he was so angry. The dagger didn't work, so he found a stone nearby, picked up the stone, and smashed it directly at the woman, who was already a little frightened. The stone was still blocked by the white light, and Wu Ai threw away the stone and rushed toward Xiaoyang, using his mouth to grab his neck. No matter how stupid the other members of the team were, they knew that something was wrong, and it was a big problem. Now they could no longer care about why Xiaoyang had such an indestructible body. They needed to understand and stop Wu Ai's behavior first. Everyone went up together to barely stop the already violent Wu Ai, but he still wanted to bite the woman in front of him. The venomous snake tied Xiaoyang to a big tree, and then several people worked together to drag Wu Ai back to the chariot. Wu Xian, use the electromagnetic cannon with maximum power to shoot Xiaoyang for me, and you must destroy her. Wu Xian was no longer able to deal with Wu Ai's task. She was already worried, and tears were flowing. Unexpectedly, at this time, a robot that everyone had never met came out, and she manually started the electromagnetic cannon, according to Wu Ai's request. After about 3 minutes of charging, a beam that could illuminate the area directly hit Xiaoyang tied to the tree. The beam disappeared, and a ditch appeared on the ground that went straight to the distance. The tree that helped Xiaoyang had long disappeared, and some of the surrounding trees were ignited and were crackling. Wu Ai looked at the radar with bloodshot eyes, and the light spot of Xiaoyang on it still did not disappear. Chase her. I must kill her. Wu Xian, the combat body who issued the order on behalf of Wu Xian, directly started the chariot, and then she drove to the light spot shown on the radar at the fastest speed. Xiaoyang was hit 5 kilometers by the thrust of the electromagnetic gun, and she could no longer stand up after such a roll. Severe dizziness made her vomit non-stop, and this series of changes made her still not fully understand what was going on. The chariot came in front of her again, and Wu Ai also broke free from the restraint of the crowd and walked off the chariot. When he saw Xiaoyang, she was vomiting bitterness. He didn't know if she had vomited everything before he came. Wu Ai looked at Xiaoyang's uncomfortable look, and he suddenly laughed and said, "Finally I know how to kill you." Looking at the expression that could be shot in a horror movie, Xiaoyang really wanted to die quickly, being targeted by such a guy. I'm afraid there will be no peaceful days in the future. Wu Ai ran back to the tank, then switched the submachine gun to the howitzer mode and fired a few shots directly. A big pit was blown out on the ground not far away. He threw down the submachine gun and dragged Xiaoyang into the pit. It seemed that he wanted to bury the other party alive. Xiaoyang kept resisting during the process of being pushed and pulled. But how could she resist the crazy Wu Ai? In the end, she was dragged in. Wu Ai didn't even go back to get a shovel or other tools. He just held the soil in his hands and threw it at Xiaoyang. Xiaoyang was so scared that she kept trying to escape, but she couldn't escape from this deep pit without tools. Looking at Xiaoyang below, who kept screaming, Wu Ai's face showed a very enjoyable expression. Suddenly, a ball of light appeared above the deep pit out of thin air, and a very angry voice came from it. Enough. You can't kill this woman. Stop your meaningless actions. Seeing that something finally appeared and talked to him, Wu Ai's expression immediately returned to a very peaceful state. Your appearance proves that what I did is meaningful. This woman should be a pawn of yours. Her role is to speed up the death of the trial team. If my actions really won't kill this woman, then you shouldn't appear. Just like before. The other members of the team also came to Wu Ai's side. They now understand that what he did before was not really crazy, but had a real purpose. Even if you guess something, what can you do? Do you still have the capital to resist? You must live the way we want you to live, and you must die the way we want you to die. The rules are set by us, and you are not even an ant. Just like the big capitals of you humans. Lowering the conditions and giving you 1,000 per month will attract a large number of workers. And what can you do if the salary is reduced to 600 in the third month? Don't you just continue to work honestly? Can you resist? Is it meaningful to resist? At this time, everyone present stopped talking, because such things were too common in the past peaceful times of mankind. You don't have the time, money, and energy to compete with these huge capitals. Only when the human life form is changed, Maybe such a situation can be completely eliminated. Wu Ai's attempt to resist angered the rulemaker, and it was very angry that it had to solve this matter personally. I am very angry about your behavior just now, so I will give you a chance to break the rules. Don't you want fairness? Don't you want to maintain a reasonable loss ratio for all trial teams in this world? I will let you get what you want now, and let you reach the 7th floor of the trial tower in one step. Do you think this is reasonable? Now you will also become cheaters, and you will eventually become the group of people you hate the most. Chapter 792 New Reincarnation Finale. There was a panic, and a strong light appeared in front of everyone. Everyone hurriedly blocked the light that pierced their eyes. When the light weakened, everyone who put down their arms was stunned. There were many humans on an endless white and smooth ground. They looked like a trial team. These people should have gathered together in teams, and they did not attack each other. The sudden appearance of Wu Ai and others here only made these people look up. And after looking at this, they no longer paid attention to this side. Wu Ai couldn't estimate the area of this place, and the distance between each team was also very far. But this place didn't seem crowded at all. The people around were obviously from various countries, which could be easily seen by their skin and eye color. At this time, a roar of vehicles suddenly came from far away, and it seemed that a vehicle was driving towards them, when a very ordinary off-road vehicle came in front of Wu Ai and others. The window of the driving position was lowered, and the person inside was the woman born by the colorful one. Before everyone could release their surprise, they saw Lu Feng, the highest commander of the former Viper gathering place. In the co-pilot, I know you have a lot of questions to ask. Follow our car and ask when we get there. The woman drove away after saying this, and Wu Ai and others got in the car after a few seconds of hesitation and followed. Wu Ai kept thinking while the vehicle was driving. It seemed that it was time for him to know the real reason for the end of the world. When the army came to a small campsite with no one nearby, the car in front finally stopped. The two people in the car quickly entered a room in the campsite, and there were many people familiar to Wu Ai. Son Zhangwo and his daughter Xiaoyu, the mayor of the Elf City, were the 5 girls who hitchhiked back from the school where Wu Ai and Li Zima first met. These were people he had seen or knew, and Wu Ai was very puzzled by the fact that all these people were gathered here. Time is running out now, and it takes a lot of time and energy for us to get you here. I need to tell you something you need to know quickly, and then let you solve everything in this apocalypse in the next reincarnation. Wu Ai couldn't understand what the other party meant by saying this, and he showed a puzzled look. The woman protected by a powerful being is used to lure the trial team to find the mysterious force she mentioned. Any trial team that is led underground by this woman will be directly eliminated, although the woman is immune to all attacks. If she reaches the death standard due to undetermined injuries, she will really die. If you really bury the woman, she will starve to death. So the rule makers will definitely come to deal with it. And it is reasonable for those arrogant beings to bring you here. Wu Ai understood this matter. But what is reincarnation? What does it have to do with him? Time is running out. I will explain it to you quickly. Many women you meet around you are your reincarnations, because you already know that the world in the end is virtual. So it is also a common operation to extract your memory and put it in other bodies. The end of the world is an experiment conducted by a silicon-based civilization on our planet to upgrade their life forms. Only by successfully leaving the virtual world can we return to the real world. You are able to find the only consciousness of reincarnation. So you should be a bug in entering the virtual world. And Wu Xian is the consciousness generated in this virtual world during the long years here. It wants to explain the tragic fate of mankind. So we have the opportunity now. We have already obtained enough information in the reincarnation. As long as we can destroy any trial tower, this virtual world will collapse. The silicon-based life forms will be annihilated directly because they cannot collect enough energy to become higher life forms due to the collapse of the virtual world. Now everything has been completed, just waiting for you to come. As long as you return to the beginning with all the memories of reincarnation, you should be able to end it all. Wu Ai looked at Wu Xian beside him, and then he asked softly, "My name was given by you. So why do you call me Wu Ai, and you call yourself Wu Xian?" At this time, Wu Xian finally stopped hiding and shed tears. You love someone you shouldn't love. I hope you don't love her every time you reincarnate. So I call you Wu Ai. I, who shouldn't have a heart that shouldn't be moved. So I always hope that I won't have this heart. But the ending of each reincarnation is almost the same. Only this time, I won't seal your memory again. You have to complete the task here, and you can complete what you should do in the next reincarnation. After saying these words, Wu Xian signaled the people behind him to take action. A cold metal object was pressed directly on his head. As his consciousness gradually weakened, Wu Ai finally shed a tear. When he regained consciousness again, Wu Ai had just left the bathroom and was walking out to see the RV exhibition. After wiping the water stains from the corners of his mouth, he felt that his face was still a little wet. When he touched the tears in the corners of his eyes, all kinds of memories came to his mind. He squatted down holding his head, and after a while, he stood up and knew what he needed to do. In the distance, an energy ball was appearing in the sky above the RV exhibition, and everything was about to start again from here.